to read it, why am I not reading it? There she is, right
Exactly.
there. She is, right there. If I want to read it, why don't I read it instead of doing this? Let's talk a little about that too when Kit comes up. There she is, Kit O'Toole. Hello, Kit.
Hello, Joe. Hello, Tim. What's going
Hello,
on?
Kurt.
And of course, Kit is my co-host over on Talk More Talk, a solo Beatles video cast that we do. So please
Mhm.
check that out. Subscribe. I think Kit, we've been getting some decent traffic on there lately. I think.
Yes, we have. Yeah, it's been nice, nice to pick up some subscribers and new viewers, and
Hmm.
yeah,
Yep, that's
very good.
good. And I was just saying about the Mal Evans book. I still have the jacket off because when I hold the book, I don't want it to get. I always do that. With a hardcover book, "Living the
Hmm.
Beatles Legend" by Kenneth Womack, the untold story of Mal Evans.
Hmm.
And I read some of it, but I was cheating. I was bouncing around, and I'm like, no, no, I got to read it straight through. But I really
Hmm.
thought I was gonna like. I'm doing a live stream so much, and I'm like, I got to read. But I will catch up as much as I can because
Yep.
we're going to talk to Ken. Hopefully, Kenneth Womack.
Yes, we are. We're going to be talking with Ken and with Gary,
Gary.
who is Mal's son. You guys are going to love him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, wait do you see? And then we're not the next show. We're not going to be able to do the interview live on the air because Gary's in England and with the time difference and all, it just doesn't work. But and I expect you to do this, Tim. You can submit questions to us. We're going to be interviewing them on December 3rd. So you can send us questions. You can post them. The last video we did, you can
Hmm.
post questions in the comments, or you can email them to us. And so, good evening. Good evening. Hello, Ollie. Hello. And we're not going to be able to get to all the questions, but we can, pick out some. And so, hi, Tanner, and we can get to some. So but yeah, but it will debut, the interview will debut at the usual showtime.
And the beautiful thing is, I think Kit's going to moderate,
Yes, I am. I'm really
which
looking
is
forward
a
to it.
capable hands. Plus, I get to say, Kit, he dance around if I don't know if I haven't read it all yet. But I'll figure a way because I mean I'm really anxious about this. It's going to be fun. I know that one. I'm looking forward to.
Hmm.
Um. So yeah. Oh, you had something. You had some record store day
Yeah, I just
items.
got back a little while ago from my local store, Blue Village Vinyl, and I got this right here.
Should I blow this up? Do you mind?
Sure, blow it on up. So this
Oh
is
yeah.
Splinter, the Splinter Record Store Day, and yeah, last one they had. This is clear vinyl.
Don't remind me because I saw somebody show it once and I liked it.
So here's the front, and here's the back. Hope the glare isn't too bad
That's
there.
good.
So yeah, really looking forward to this. Yeah, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, all right, I'll spring for it.
Yeah, the queen of all kinds of vinyl too, colored vinyl. Are you going to share the vinyl with us or no?
Yeah,
Did
why
you open
not?
it already? Is it
I haven't
open?
opened it yet. Like, I
Oh,
literally just got home
I'm
a little
sorry.
while ago, so why not? I'll
She
do it.
doesn't even need a knife or anything.
Yep, that's advantage to having nails. I can do it that way.
Because this
So
is a swell looking disc. I saw it once.
okay, let me get this open. So yeah, you guys are seeing an unveiling. Okay, so here's the sleeve. There we
Dark
go.
horse.
The dark horse, obviously. All right, and here we go.
Whoa, man, look at that.
Ooh,
Translucent clear vinyl.
yes, indeed. Oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
Yep. As
Here we
Richard
go.
Nixon would say, that's perfectly clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well said, sir. So there we go.
Mhm.
Nice and clear. Yeah, nice and heavy too.
Yeah, that's what they are, right? They make them a
Yeah,
little
this is
heavy. You can hit somebody over the head and knock them out with it.
that's
If
right.
anybody ever burglar comes in or something, yeah, hit him with that.
And of course, let me get this straight here. There we go. Nice Dark Horse label.
Yeah, yep. The Dark Horse. Dark Horse.
So there you go. Yeah, this is really nice. And the other thing I picked up, this is only going to be of interest to fellow Chicagoans, but I'm going to show it anyway. This is a book. The author was there. This is the Loop Files, and this is about a station here, which was the Loop, a 97.9, which was a legendary rock station here. It's probably best known to people around the country as the station, which was that Steve Dahl belonged to, that staged Disco Demolition in 1979, where they blew up all the disco records at Comiskey Park. So that was, the whole disco sucks thing and everything. But they're known for a lot more than that. But the author was there and signed my book. If I can, yeah, here it is. So
All right.
it.
Thanks for your support.
Yep. And we swapped books, so that
Nicely
was fun.
Done.
So there you go.
Or as someone I know says sometimes, well played or nicely played. I can see Ken Womack going, nicely played.
That's right.
Like
and then as another bonus, and again, that's right, Farrell McNulty, WLUP. Yep, great station back then. That is true. Yeah. So okay, so you know it. Yep. And another nice thing was there was a guy there. If you're a Facebook friend of mine, you'll see it on my page. There was a guy there that was, as soon as I saw him, I'm like, I know who that guy is. Pete, who runs a great Facebook page called Vanished Chicagoland, who does a lot of research and posts all kinds of pictures and memorabilia and all about long gone Chicago, like stores, restaurants, all kinds of stuff and that kind of I know it isn't a Christian music station. It's still it's still rock, but it's a shadow of its former self. But anyway, so this guy was there, and so I was really thrilled to meet him. Really, really nice guy. So it was, really fun trip.
Okay, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
And there's a few questions here. Like Matchstick Man wanted to know, do you know what the Threedles, so-called, played at Eric and Patty's wedding? And why did John skip it? Is there a bootleg? As far as I know, there's no bootleg, and I don't know what they played.
I have no idea.
And why did John skip it? Why do I feel like there's an answer to that, but I don't know it?
I have no idea.
There's all kinds of stories. There's stories that he wasn't
stories.
invited, but he also may have been in Japan at the time with visiting Yoko's relatives.
Could be.
I don't know, but he I don't know. No one knows.
Anybody? Are we looking forward to Christmas?
Sure.
I'm trying to get better because most of the reason I didn't look forward to it for many years was because of my line of work. It's the worst time to be a mailman and all that.
Oh,
so,
of course.
But overall, I guess I do like Christmas. Overall, but I don't know.
I still find it retail, so I'm not a Christmas fan.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another thing is I'll be writing my Christmas Beatles Christmas gift list soon. So.
Oh, well, that's always easy to. That's my girlfriend's got it so easy. All she's got to do, I just say, just buy me Beatle T-shirts, any kind of thing, record album covers, anything that I could wear, on shows, and that's it. I don't know. With her, it's kind of tough. I think sometimes. Do I still own some of those Frank Sinatra records? Yes, I do still own them. I gotta play them. I played a few of them. I played a few. And it's weird about Frank. I'm not a big Sinatra guy, but sometimes I hear him and I'm like, oh, he's good. I hear him on Ghostie's radio station or something. And I'm like, yeah, I like that. So, but Watertown. Shall we talk about Watertown again? Jeez, I'm so freaking embarrassed. I know Tim loves this. This is crazy. This is crazy. I can't
I
find it now. It's here. I didn't lose it. There it is. My friend George, music for all 4 seasons, and not this past September, but the September before, sent me this album, which I did listen to, Genuine Imitation Life Gazette by the 4 Seasons, which I enjoyed. I got a kick out of this. And he sent me Watertown, which is a great Frank Sinatra album, I'm told.
I don't think I know that one.
And he wanted me to listen to them. And I said, I will. And this is September of 2022 that he sent me. And I'm like, I will. He goes, oh, take your time. No rush. No rush. Yeah, I'm taking my time. All right. But again, it's most, it sounds like it has to do with how much of a pain in the neck it is in here to play records. It just is. And, and I could really go to town, and it's still my goal. Tim's going to laugh, and please do. We need it. When I say about these first time spins, I could really have a good ball regularly. At least you could do one. I could do a video a week. I could easily play once I get this turntable going up here. I could easily play a record I've never heard before, at least one a day.
Mm-hmm.
What is it, a half an hour, 40 minutes, or whatever it is. And then by the end of the week, I have at least let's say just say 4. Even if it's 4 albums, you don't even have to. I could do a video, first time spins. So let's see how it goes. I'm not promising anything because it'll be a surprise if I get on it.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than promising things. I'd like to know more about the relationship between John and Howard Cosell. From the clip I saw, it looks like they had a great rapport. John seemed comfortable. He got together with him for more than just that one interview.
Mm-hmm.
That little interview. There was another one, and they sounded pretty good together. I heard that other interview with Howard Cosell.
I could see why they get along. I mean, I think, Howard Cosell had that classic kind of personality, that kind of brash personality. And John was drawn to that. I mean, he loved that. So I could see why they would get along.
There you go.
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
Chicago Rocks
And Howard was the first one to tell us all that John had been shot.
Yeah.
Well, not me, thank goodness. I'm glad I didn't hear from his big mouth. But
that was where the news first hit, was Monday Night Football.
Yep.
Howard Cosell that said it.
Yeah.
Well, that was what a lot of people got their information. That's not where I got my news from.
Yeah.
Mine was, and some of us were before that, because that subject comes up from time to time. It's a
right
subject.
Mm-hmm.
But I heard in progress. I'm like waiting to hear it.
Yeah.
By the time he got it, it was already over.
What had happened? It's not that it took him a long time to do it, but this is national television. They had to verify. They had to check sources, and I mean, you can't go on Monday Night Football and say John Lennon has been shot if you're not sure. So they had to verify.
Yeah.
Yes. Is this true, or is it more Yoko derangement stuff?
I don't know.
Don't know about this. Oh, Yoko did it again. Broke up another chance for a Beatles reunion. Hey, she's at home. I'm gonna spoil the chance for them to get together. I mean, I really, I don't believe it. But then again, is it official? If it's official, it's official. But it's tiring. It's tiring.
Yeah.
Hello, Robin. Robin Ambrosi, nonetheless. Okay. Hello there. Just stopped by to say hello. Have a good night. Oh, okay. You too. And I'm looking forward to Daddy coming up again at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Paul's song Suicide. Mayo's rap reviews. I'd have to think of a really, man, that would be some series. I'd have to really think of a good title for that too.
When I was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last weekend, there was a big, because hip hop celebrating its 50th anniversary, and there was a big featured exhibit on hip hop, and I thought of you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you never know. What if I start liking some of it? It's possible.
Yep.
Right? You
You,
don't know.
you
But well,
know.
it's not
That,
bad. Well, that's the
yeah.
idea. If I just hate all of it, it's no fun.
Mhm.
It's too obvious. I'm gonna dislike it. Uh,
Well, all
okay.
I can say is when they open the Hip Hop Hall of Fame, I hope they put the Beatles and Elvis and Dolly Parton in there because fair is fair.
What about that Dolly? I still haven't bought the Dolly Parton album, and I really
Oh
want to hear it.
yeah, that's right. I've got to listen to that.
And I've seen both the vinyl and the CD
I'm
available.
not interested. I saw her do a halftime show yesterday. I was too curious not to watch it on YouTube, and I don't know. It is what it is.
Mhm.
It's amazing. She must have a great voice because she's singing up a storm and doesn't. There's not a mic anywhere near her, so she must have a fantastic voice. No,
Oh
all
dear.
that stuff is canned, but you can at least put on one of those little microphones that makes it look like you're singing live. No,
Mhm.
no, no. She's just out there.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. This is what the first is. Well, that's. I wonder what the future's going to hold for this. They're going to always be playing. Are they always going to be playing that
Yeah.
version, or just now for now, or
Yeah,
what?
because I mean, I could understand them playing that for now, because obviously they're pushing the red and blue albums.
Well, here's the thing. Here, you see, the thing is that you watched a shocking video about Yoko's control of John Lennon. Battles with Yoko Ono, former staffers John Lennon and Fred Seaman. I think they spelled his name Seaman wrong. But
Mhm.
anyway, be that as it may, well, they did, but he did, but I meant a joke. May Pang said, well, there's other people that don't feel that way, that have said things, that observed them and didn't find it that way. And I always say that if John wanted to be controlled, if he liked somebody taking the lead or whatever, well, then he did. But I don't know if he's controlled in that particular sense. He felt that way. I don't know.
Nobody controls me. I'm uncontrollable. Fuck you, brother or sister. You don't know what's happening.
Okay, there you go. John spoke for himself there.
Because that's the thing. I always say John was a grown man. You know,
Right.
he was a big boy. He was not a puppet. And if he wanted to be controlled, that was his decision.
Yeah. And he liked strong women. The whole story that Paul always tells. And he didn't want to do the business. He couldn't be bothered with the business. She took care of it and everything. And that's why who knows. And I say
Yeah.
controlled is a tough word, but
Right.
like in my case, I just tend to, maybe it's lazy more than anything, but like when we went to Oklahoma, my girlfriend made the arrangements. I tagged along with her I carried, the valise, whatever, dragged
Mhm.
the valises and everything. She went in, she got the boarding passes, she's in the machine, the kiosk, and I'm just there, kind of there. That's okay. I like that. Some other guys, oh, I'll take care of that. I'm a
Mhm.
macho guy, whatever the hell it is. You know, it's never going to stop. I don't think this controlling thing is never going to stop. I don't think just the
And
way
she
it is.
did have a head for business, didn't she?
Yeah,
Because, she did a good job.
yeah.
And, I mean, John, I mean, we all love John, but I mean, he could be taken in by, I mean, two words, Magic Alex. I mean,
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. He was easily fooled,
yeah.
taken in by Magic Alex, Alan Klein. Now some people say Yoko, but also in that interview he says he admits it. Maharishi.
Mhm.
Oh, he admits it. He says, and even Arthur Janoff. There's a lot of people.
Mhm.
And then he says, nobody. The wolves pull over my eyes, but there comes a point where I will see. He
Mhm.
says, I'm naive, but I'm not also not stupid. And then he said, and nobody can pull the wool that long.
Yeah.
So then Yoko adds, well, I must have been the biggest con in the world because I've been with him for 30 years and and he
Exactly.
hasn't seen yet. It's like so silly,
Yeah.
but.
Exactly. Mhm.
Well, I will say a little bit about Joan Rivers. I mean, somebody's mentioning Joan Rivers. I saw another Joan Rivers thing. It's all subjective, but I always thought she's very funny. I thought she's really a good comedian. But anybody else like or dislike Joan Rivers?
Mhm.
Not too
Okay.
much.
I will give her credit for, I mean, when she came along, I mean, female comics were, not plentiful. And she was, talked about stuff at the time that, women, female comics did not really talk about. in her era. I mean, I remember I saw a documentary about her, and talking about pregnancy and things like that. It was just like, ooh,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, women did, but she broke a lot of barriers.
But
She
for
just
me,
was better in the early days.
there
Hmm.
weren't many. I mean,
You
many
know,
at the
her,
beginning
her,
comedians,
her,
but
her, and Phyllis Diller created,
Right.
Phyllis
the
Diller,
sort of
right? Yeah, yeah,
downtrodden housewife characters,
yeah, yeah. That's
Hmm.
a good way of putting it.
there would be no Roseanne Barr and people like that without those two.
I mean, I think
They
Exactly.
Lucille Ball, Carol Burnett, and Joan Rivers, like three of the funniest women that the older days,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yep.
This is interesting from jail. The Lost Weekend was a good example of John Lennon uncontrollable. How did that work out? That's what I always say. He went kind of wild. Got thrown out
Mhm.
of a club. So nice job, eh? Take a good care of John there. You know what I mean and stuff,
Well,
and toot toot and snore everywhere.
Mhm.
So I'm saying it's not like it was exactly like everything was perfect with her under
well,
John's
no, no.
watch either.
But in May's defense, she's with Harry Nilsson. They're with Harry Nilsson, Keith Moon. Who knows who else? How are you going to control those guys? She's like a 23-year-old woman.
Well, that's
How is she
true,
gonna?
Yeah.
What
but I'm
What is
trying.
she gonna do?
Yes, Tim, you're right. But what I'm trying to do
Yeah.
is, we all know that. But what I'm trying to do, in my unsuccessful way, apparently, is to try
Mhm.
to like punch a hole in this whole thing. Now, she was so good for John. That's the one John should have stayed with. He was perfect. All this kind of stuff. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to punch a couple of holes in there. That's all I was trying to do. But
Yeah,
yeah, no,
Mhm.
no,
you
no.
make a
I'm
good
not
point.
disagreeing.
You make a good point.
I mean, probably. I will say this, that yeah. I mean, I have my issues, with the
Yeah.
whole that documentary and so forth. But I will say, yeah, if John had gone there completely alone, I don't know if he would have emerged, quite frankly, alive, or
Well,
he would
that's a
have
good
been.
point too, because yeah,
Yeah.
that is a good point. Because after having just said what I said,
Hmm.
if it wasn't for her,
Hmm.
there could have been a disaster. And not
Yeah.
only that, but that's why I say people. I dare say this, but I've said it before. Even though it's kind of weird and it's unconventional what Yoko did, here
Yeah.
go out with
Yeah,
her. I think it's smart in a way to
Yeah.
keep instead of letting him just go berserk with everybody. It's kind of like well, he's gonna fool around. I'd rather it be with have her there or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
still
yeah, it's still
weird.
weird. I mean, I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's
yeah.
weird. But in a way, yeah, can you imagine if he had just gone by himself?
No, no, no. Look at what happened to the other two that I just mentioned,
Hmm.
and John could have been right there with him. Well, he wound up
Hmm.
anyway being right there with him, but then through no faults of his own, unfortunately.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, well, you probably asked us 1,000 times. It is the season. Happy Christmas. War is over. Wonderful Christmas time. Which do you prefer?
Oh boy.
I like them both. I really
Me
do.
too.
I prefer Happy Christmas, but people make fun of Wonderful Christmas time. It's just a feel good, like let's celebrate and ring in the holidays. I have no problem with Wonderful Christmas time.
Exactly. If you're having a Christmas party, you really kind of don't want to play Happy Christmas War is over. You want to play Wonderful Christmas Time.
Exactly.
But if you're sitting alone contemplating, Christmas, then maybe War is Over is a better tune.
Mhm.
Depends on your mood.
Yeah, it's hard to choose between the two because that's a good point, Tim. Because like they're so different, and the moods are different. Because absolutely, I mean, if you want a festive holiday mood, Wonderful Christmas Time is what you
Yeah.
want. And yeah, and I agree. I think that song has been so dissed over the years. I mean, I just think, come on, it's just a fun Christmas song. I mean, do they all have to be serious and brainy? And I mean, come on, it's a fun song. But yeah, Happy Christmas, that is a completely different vibe to it. It's serious and as you said, Tim, contemplative.
Yeah.
So yeah, boy, that's hard to hard to say which is quotes better. I mean, I like them
Yeah,
both. Hmm.
as do I. Yeah, this
Hmm.
is a thought from Martin. Yeah. Well, yeah, fling 18 months is not a fling,
Hmm.
but
but she's also being paid by the Lennons to be there. So, it's a job as well. I
Hmm.
mean, she is doing her job.
Yeah.
You know,
John was isolated from the public view in LA as he was during key moments. Well, like I said, that's great for fans and everything. And May's always pointing out he wasn't lost. He did this. He was with Bowie. He was with Elton
yeah,
John. He met Ringo and Paul and Keith Moon. They got together
yeah,
again and they did all these things. Harry does. And yeah, that's all great and everything. We're happy. May's happy. How happy was John? I don't know. He
yeah,
obviously you could tell in some of these he was having a good time, but inside, people say that all the time. I may look like a clown. I may be laughing, but on the inside, he wanted to be back with Yoko, and he used to say, "Can I come home? Can I come home?" all the time. He didn't just say, "Hey, stay. I'm loving this. Leave me alone. This is fantastic." He didn't say that. So
Well, and all you have to do is listen to one of my favorite John albums, which I hope we're going to get a box set for in the near future, is Walls and Bridges. I
oh yeah, I
mean,
certainly hope so. I
yeah.
think we are. I think we're gonna get that. But
Hmm.
first we're gonna get, of course, Mind Games. You
Hmm.
know.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, well, and even on that, if those who say, "Oh, he was just having a great time and during that period, and he was so content with May and everything." I mean, listen to the lyrics on those. I mean, not that he didn't, love May. I'm not saying that, but I mean, what you got and bless you and those other songs. I mean, you know, he
Mm-hmm.
clearly still loved Yoko.
Yeah, yeah. Kate, you and I both love the Walls and Bridges.
Hmm.
But it's funny. When I was younger, I really didn't care for "Bless You" too much, which is, I guess, it just was a little too slow and sluggish for me when I was
Yeah.
younger. But now I really like it, and the words in
Hmm.
particular, and the message, because it really is pining away for Yoko, and that's where his real love is, in that
Hmm.
song. You
Yep.
know, so maybe
Exactly.
like, yeah, I think I love her with, Maypang with "Surprise, Surprise." I think I love her, well, etc. You do
Hmm.
this, you do that for me. But the thing is, I think the real soulmate love is in "Bless You."
Yep.
In my opinion, I think it
Yeah.
sounds like that.
Exactly.
Uh, here's a little comment there.
Mhm.
Uh, Yoko revealed their itinerary and routes that John and her took back. Then their security guard was not happy.
Mhm.
I do love this song. I got, and this what they
Yeah.
call it. I love that. I really love that song. It's on my special mix of my favorite annual Christmas tunes.
Yeah, when I was last week at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, found out that the waitresses, or at least, and I'm blanking out on a lead singer's name. She was so good.
Yeah.
Um, she was from Ohio. They had like a section in the museum. They had local, like Ohio artists,
Mhm.
and she was among them. And that reminded me how good the waitresses were. They really were unique.
yeah. They're great. I
Yeah, I
like
am
them.
looking forward to that, but I have to, probably better off not listening to it with Miss Mayo. I really shouldn't do that. She's not really fond of it. She's very picky about her music, but I mean, she's open to a lot of stuff that I play force on her.
Mhm.
But I think that I don't think that's one thing she would never listen to, is the Bob Dylan Christmas album.
No, I wouldn't
Uh,
listen to that either.
oh
I've heard a
boy.
bit of it, and only
Oh,
Bob could make Christmas songs
I
sound creepy.
it's
I
garbage.
like it. I
Really?
like it. Yeah, I do. I mean, I think he's doing it tongue in cheek. He's not
Well,
being
that's why I like
serious,
it as a
and that's
joke.
why I
Like
like
this.
it. Because I
Hmm.
mean, I'm sorry. To me, his version of "Must Be Santa" is the definitive version of "Must Be
I like the
Santa."
Mitch Miller
It's
one. I know
so
everybody likes Dylan's a lot, but
it's
I
so
like the Mitch
good.
Miller one. I did not see that Claudio about to do the
No.
visited John at his home. Is that
No,
the what's the Al Pacino movie that I've never seen? Is that it, or is there another one?
I've
Uh,
heard about that documentary, but I haven't seen it yet.
again, I didn't want this to come up to us, but when we're I don't look at Happy Christmas, War is Over so depressing. I guess maybe I should. I don't know why. I don't. Maybe I'm very shallow with it. Some people say he's kind of scolding you, like, what have you done? What are you doing for anybody on Christmas? Are you doing anything where you're having fun? I don't think of it like that at all. I mean, that seems like,
Mhm.
do they know it's Christmas more than than that? But it sounds shallow, but I just love when they sing. So this is Christmas, and what have you done? I always take stock of myself. What kind of year has it been?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
have you done this year? How would it go
See,
for
I,
you?
I've always looked at that lyric as he's not singing it to us; he's singing it to himself.
Hmm.
Oh,
I've always taken it as John asking himself, "It's another Christmas. What have you done?"
Mm.
You know,
yeah, I never did. That's a way of looking at it, but
Hmm.
yeah, that's
I'll.
why I've always taken it. He's not singing
Yeah.
it to us.
Somebody likes walls and bridges.
Yep. Love Walls and Bridges.
Yeah, that guy that turned up to this one thought that John was writing songs for him.
Yeah.
Like when he goes, "How could I
Yeah.
be thinking of you, man? How could I be thinking of you?" And then
That
he goes,
poor guy.
"I don't mean just me, but I don't, I don't care if it's just me, but I mean for anybody." I don't want to say the rest of it. It's
That,
just,
that
there's
poor
no.
guy.
But then John feeds him, so
Yeah, I thought that was
with
really nice
John,
of
but
him.
John invites him in for some food. It's just,
Hmm.
who would do that?
Hmm. Yeah, I thought that was really, really good. Yeah, I
Uh,
love what I don't know about that, but I love what you got. That's a
yeah. Trying to
love
think
it.
if that's the last. Well, now you got me thinking. Well, not counting like the rock and roll album. You
Mhm.
talking about originals, like. Well, you had Move Over Mizell, but that was
Mhm.
earlier, recorded earlier, but it was released
Yeah,
in '75.
And Indie Cult, what I love about the song is that it's a great rocker, but when you listen to the lyrics, it's a very different story. Because I mean, he's this great rocker, but when you listen to the lyrics, what he's really talking about is how miserable he is. I mean, because it starts out, it's Saturday night, and I just gotta rip it up, but then he's the rest of it is basically about how miserable he is and how he misses misses Yoko
Yeah.
and how kind of shallow and empty things are. I mean, it's really interesting, you know.
John, of course, was kind with that. Now here we go again. Boop. Boy, this is my new thing, and I do, kid. Boop boop. Alarm going off.
Uh
Siren
oh.
going off. This is Joe. Oh, says he never can criticize John Lennon. Okay, or say anything negative. Here I go. But the thing is, in all fairness, the cameras are rolling. They are making it. They are kind of making covering it. I mean, it's still kindness. It's still
yeah,
great.
Mhm.
But I mean, I think because I would say that about Paul. I've often said, well, Paul, when the cameras are on, then he's like, everything's good. Sign your autographs and everything. But yeah, because they wanted to document everything. John
Mhm.
and Yoko. But still, it's still a very nice gesture.
Yeah.
But just throwing that in there to be fair. And say, well.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of stories of him, like things people are missing all that, and there's a lot of things like that of him giving interviews to people. Like there's some young interview with a young person. I don't remember the details. It's available on if you look for it on YouTube. A young person that wanted to do an interview with him. If it was a student or something, he did it, and it's on somewhere. I think it's
Mhm.
1969
Mhm.
and things like that. But people that's not the narrative for him anymore. I not Martin McGrath disagrees with me. I know that. He doesn't seem to notice that it's a lot of anti-John sentiment everywhere these days. But I feel it.
Mhm.
And online, Facebook, YouTube videos.
And it's so fascinating because I know you guys remember this too. In the 80s, I mean, John was like, almost like sainted. I mean, it was like
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
opposite,
yeah.
yeah,
and it's just, I mean, when that Goldman book came out and everything, I mean, people were outraged and I mean,
Yeah.
it was just like, just the complete opposite. And now, I mean, not everybody is talking, saying negative things about John. I mean,
Not
he's
every,
like
but
the
no,
most
nothing.
evil
Not
person.
100%. No.
Yeah, but it's interesting this kind of backlash that you read it in
Yeah, they
yeah.
so
put out.
many.
I
No,
guess they put out that Imagine John Lennon film to counteract the effect of the Goldman
Yep.
book too. But
Yeah.
in all fairness, but in that documentary, you still see him being, having a temper, like when he's fighting with
Sure.
that woman at the office and everything, and he's yelling at her. So it's and yelling and bawling out the guy running the tapes
Hmm.
for Yoko and
Yeah.
screaming at him. So I mean, yeah, that's John.
Hmm.
And I dare say there's days like Paul with stuff like that. I've heard stories. I witnessed one thing. I'm not going into it now. I've talked about it myself, So, but that's not really shown so much with Paul. But obviously, John was the hotter temper,
Yeah.
no
Hmm.
doubt about it.
Yep. Yep.
If I missed anything, I'm still going down. Uh, no, I don't think he's going to be Doc. I don't think so.
Hi, Doc.
Yeah, is he going to be at the
Yeah,
fest?
they
No,
could
I
get
don't think so.
him. They're looking for guests. They could get that guy.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if there are any new guests, but they have the guest list so far. But supposedly there may be more, so we'll
I
see.
heard that Gary Burr was added, but I don't see him
Mm,
on the
mm,
site,
yeah.
so I don't know if that's true. But yeah, haven't heard any others, so we'll just have to keep our. Oh yeah, Pete Best, happy birthday!
I also heard on the radio today. There's this guy I listen to. I forget his name. James Goldman, Bo Snerdley,
Mhm.
and he played a little bit of Photograph. He likes a lot of music, and he plays a little bit of Photograph. He said today is the anniversary of Photograph being number one, I guess, or Ringo's Photograph. So
Hmm.
I didn't, these things you don't know. You
Yeah,
think
it
you know all the dates, but you don't know all of them.
could be.
Mhm.
It could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, well, there and then, and all that peace and love stuff. While a lot of it, John Latest took back a little, or did he say it wasn't all genuine? I think I don't want to put words in his mouth if I don't know what I'm talking about. But for the
Mhm.
most part, they did make some effort. Like, they were naive about a lot of it, and went around it not always the best way, but he made an effort to try to like help out a little bit. So more than I could
Mhm.
say for some others. But thank you very much, Indie Colt, for your super chat. Jeezy, that Joe got the Queen on chat. Good on yous. Jeez, yeah, he's always has Archie Bunkerisms and stuff. Jeez, yeah, eat it. uh,
That's
when you say
great.
stop, are you talking about Stop and Smell the Roses?
Hmm.
I always thought it was Life Begins at 40 was going to be on Stop and Smell. If that's what we're talking about, I never really,
Possibly, yeah.
or maybe nobody
Maybe.
told me. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I think those are two. Uh, oops, sorry, things moved. Since the 90s, justifiably violence against women and neglect of children undiscriminately viewed as intolerable offenses. Yeah, well, they are, and they are
Mhm.
intolerable and
Oh
everything,
yeah.
but they overinflate the incidents with him. And again, I always want to say this because it's also part of it today. I
Mhm.
don't condone it. You can't say, well, it was just once or it was just this or that. That was it. Yeah, but the
Mhm.
thing with Julian, I really think is overblown, especially.
Mhm.
I really do. I mean, I still say, and this is just my opinion, but you got John, whatever he was. He didn't expect Julian to be born. It was, he was born accident, and then he married Cynthia. Then the Beatles got famous. Who could have imagined what the phenomenon they would be? Here's John, still a jerk himself. I'm trying to be fair, like
Mhm.
immature. He's growing up to do. And he's running around and he's got to write songs all the time and make albums and record and he's got to do tours everywhere and you got to make movies and everything. Then you come home exhausted.
Mhm.
Julian is he's older now and everything. And John never got it together how to you know uh, be a better dad. He didn't know either, and he learned that as he went on and made it up as best he could to Julian
Mhm.
Yeah.
and Sean.
And, and,
What do you
and
want from the
John's
man?
Yeah, in John's defense, would it have been better to take, a 2-year-old kid out on the road with him I could imagine what people would say today about that. Oh, he took his 2 years old son on the road. What is he, either way, he's going to lose. No matter what he did, he's going to lose.
Mhm.
Wow, this is very
That is
cool.
fault he got that
Oh wow.
famous.
Mhm.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much for helping out.
And unfortunately, you know, and I think Paul has talked about this and all that. You know, the male kind of culture, and
Yes.
growing up in
Yeah.
Liverpool, was not the most enlightened, shall we say?
And it was wrong. It was
And
it
it
was
was at
wrong.
100% wrong. Absolutely. I mean, and and I think John, and he talked about it very openly,
Yeah.
over the years that he learned,
Yeah.
and I think Yoko didn't put up with a lot of crap, and
No.
good for her.
And he
I
said some
mean,
stuff like that. The interview, and the feminist part of me died slightly, and she let me have it and stuff. And
mhm,
and he was writing a, women's liberation song. The woman is the bleep of the world,
yeah,
and
hmm,
writing "Woman," which is an ode to not just Yoko but for all women. And he said, the last day of his life when he's RKO, he's talking about. I started thinking all the things that women has done for me my whole life that I never even thought about.
hmm,
And without them, there's nothing. He says, "Oh, I'm getting goosebumps because people got to understand. Some people don't know any of this. They just go by whatever it is. Oh, he's the violent guy and the deadbeat dad. Next."
hmm,
And I hear that all the time from people who don't know everything.
yeah,
Not that they
yep,
can know everything, or how would they know everything? You
yep,
know.
yeah, that's true.
Uh, let's see. Oh, well, Martin's very. I gotta say, Martin's always trying to tell me, no, no, Joe, you're wrong. John's always loved, and he's always all this stuff we're talking about is true, though. He really is getting slammed a lot. But yes, there's a lot of fans that still gather to sing his songs,
Oh, sure.
and so judge with 2023 eyes. Yeah, I see what you're saying there, Martin. Yeah, it
Hmm.
says more about them, the people, and the people they're judging. Yeah, okay, that's true. But you're always going to have your crowds there, and then you're going to always have your crowds elsewhere. And it's so sickening to me. Like I saw somebody did a poll, who's your favorite, list your favorite to least favorite Beatle and why. Paul got like 40 something percent or whatever it was. John got I think 28%. George got 26.
Hmm.
Okay, so and then people were writing, and some few people said John, he was just a deadbeat dad, and he was nasty to Julian, and he was a lousy husband, blah blah. And I'm like, that's it, that's the reason. So that's what
Hmm.
it's like. That's right now in this age what people are concentrating on
Yeah. Hmm.
mostly. I don't think that's not all there was to John. Now, and like you said earlier, kid, it's absolutely absurd to think that this man was a saint.
Right.
He was a saint after because anybody gets murdered like that, right? It's a natural thing. Poor soul and
Yeah.
man of peace getting shot and all this kind of stuff. Um, right. So that was too far the other way. The pendulum went too far one way. Pendulum goes too far the other way. There's something in the
Hmm.
middle there
And
that I
and
wish.
John would be the last person who would
Yeah,
want to be portrayed as a saint. I
absolutely.
mean, not that of course, not that I know him personally. I mean, because that's the other thing that drives me crazy is people,
Yeah.
who talk about John like they knew him personally. So
Yeah, yeah.
let me
Yep.
make that clear.
Yeah, we did.
you
We
know,
definitely didn't know John personally, but however,
no,
I would argue that the way he always talked openly and
yeah,
candidly, made his music and his feelings accessible, almost made people feel. That's why I gravitated towards him the
exactly.
most because I
So
felt like I could relate to him or I knew him a little bit.
exactly. So like, from what we've read in his interviews, from his music, from what we've seen, it just seems like, he's the last person who would want to be portrayed as
Yeah,
a
oh
saint.
yeah, oh
You
sure.
know, I mean, he really didn't.
And
But
he himself talked about all his weaknesses and all his
sure,
problems. He didn't like try to hide it or pretend he was perfect. It's
mm-mm,
crazy. And that,
absolutely. So that's the thing. But yeah. So
uh,
I also think too, that poll that you mentioned, part of it too with people listening is, Paul's,
that's it.
been around for so long. I mean,
That's what I said in the comments.
and
Yeah.
John's now been,
Exactly.
sadly dead longer than he's been alive.
Yeah, and a
And
lot of younger
Yeah.
people have no frame of
Yeah.
reference for John, and
Yeah.
look, and again, if people can know what I'm going to say, if you listen to me a lot, Paul, thank you, Paul.
Mhm.
for being you, for being a workaholic, for constantly having such great music to this day,
Yep.
always wanting to do projects, always wanting to keep moving, never being stagnant. The workaholic. That's Paul. The phone's ringing. It's Paul. Get back to work.
Yep.
Thank you for doing the tours. Thank you for carrying that torch. That new generations get to see you, and thank you for doing all the Beatles songs, being the Beatles rep, really, in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
That's all great, but as you say, it gives an unfair advantage in a way too.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. So I think that's part of it. I mean, not to take away from his artistry or anything like that, but I think that's part of it. Just he's he's been so prolific and he's still with us,
Mm.
and as I said, John died so long ago. George has been gone since 2001. I mean, I think
Yeah,
that's
George
part of
too. And Kit, the thing is too, as I've often said, I say drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm also becoming that way. I've said this before. I'm basically the John guy. Yes, I like all four. I love all four Beatles.
it. Hmm.
My favorite's John, I suppose. But the thing is, yet I look at it and I see every time I look at the Beatles now, I've said it, my eyes kind of look at Paul.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's the guy. He's
Hmm.
the guy you want to get back. He's the one that wants to stay late. He wants the one that wants to work out his song. He's the one that really wants the Beatles to go. He's the best musician, arguably, or most versatile. He does more instruments, and I'm the whole bit and the melody, great melodies. I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, like, if I see an album cover now, it's almost like I'm watching. I'm trying to think of a comparable example. You can throw a few up there. It's like I'm looking at, I don't know, Eric Burden and the Animals, or I'm looking
Hmm.
at, Mick Jagger and the other Stones. I'm like, and I never saw them like that my whole life. And
Hmm.
I'm in my 60s, and now it's always been four guys, and it's always been or John and Paul equal. But now even I am starting to lose Lennon a little bit.
Yeah.
So if it's happening to me, I wonder, and I see John as being like he doesn't really want to. He's kind of like lazy in the studio. It's kind of like let's get. I heard outtakes just the other day again, old outtake, and he's like, oh come on, let's go," and he
Hmm.
like wants to get it over with,
Yep.
And a lot of his songs, I don't know music that well. I'm not a musician, but people tell me there's a certain kind of chord arrangement or something, or that John does a lot, same thing all the time. I'm really beginning to think it's Paul mostly. I really
Yeah.
am.
Yeah, I know.
You
And
know.
and in my case, when I first started getting into the Beatles, it was about, mid 80s. And I mean, John died when I was 8. And I started, getting into the Beatles first. I'm sorry, Paul McCartney
Paul
first,
McCartney first.
because he was still making hits at that time, when I was 8. And so, I mean, he was still on the charts. He was, of course, the duets with Michael Jackson, all
Right.
that stuff. So, so he was like, I mean, I remember even thinking when I was a kid, like, oh, that's, Beatles, Paul's group,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
because he was more visible. I
Right.
mean, so that's the thing. It's interesting, you know, that's the thing. But it was only because John was gone. As I said, by the time I was 8 years old, so I didn't really get to know him, as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And I got to say, Martin, this is a pretty fair theory on your part, but I swear it's not just Get Back. I was feeling like this before Get Back.
Mhm.
All Get Back did is like solidify it for me. I mean, but that's not fair because that's a period where John was on another. He just was in another world.
Mhm.
John didn't really want. He just wasn't invested as much. Although
Mhm.
later on, when Billy Preston comes in, you can see John getting more involved, trying to help
Mhm.
George out with some of the lyrics and things. But um, no. Well, anyway, so it's not just Get Back, but I think no wonder Paul, it didn't hurt him any. Get Back.
Right.
I think he used to be worried about that stuff, that footage of him looking like the boss or something, or. But now it didn't. It didn't hurt Paul any. It
No.
helped him a lot.
I was going
Get
to
Back
say, if
a
anything,
lot.
it helped him. It
But
helped
hurt
him.
John a little more, I think.
Yeah.
But that's just that period anyway. If it had been 1964, 63, or 64, 65, and so on, you'd see more John. I think you'd see more John in the studio prominently.
Exactly. Well, gentlemen, I'm afraid I have to go because I have to go pick up our pizza for dinner.
Oh, so
So,
lucky. You're so I'm having pizza tonight. I don't care. I'm having pizza. This is my last night before I start. But then again, she's not coming home till 10, probably 11 o'clock by the time. Anyway,
it's still holiday. Come on.
yes. But Kit, I'm going to tell you, thank you. I mean, it's always nice to have you here, but
Mhm,
this conversation really was a good one. Sometimes you do these things and you're like, boy, there's a big section there where I was
mhm,
really great, and I
mhm.
really loved the time we spent here today. So
Yeah,
thank you.
this was fun. I'm always glad when I can pop on and say hi, and yep, was glad to be on with you guys. This was fun.
Yes, thank you, and and enjoy the rest of your Black Friday.
Indeed. Hey, I got my record store day thing, and I'm happy.
All right.
so so
So,
Joe, Tim, always a
You
pleasure.
sing, you kid.
okay.
Good
Talk
seeing
soon.
you. Bye, everybody. Oh, my pleasure, Matchstick Man. See, I can't even talk. I need my food.
Before you go, I got to say one thing. You know what this is? Poor little pizza ain't good for nothing. That's a honeymooners.
You're just jealous that you're not having Chicago
That's
pizza.
the thing when
Sorry.
Ralph, on the honeymooners, Ralph is we always do honeymooners. Like Ralph Cramden is just told he's got to eat salad. His wife wants him to eat salad, and then
Hmm.
he goes. Norton brings a pizza over, and he goes. Go ahead, eat your pizza. I got a salad, not a bad one either. He goes, everything's good here. You got lettuce for your teeth. You got beets for your blood. Carrots for your eyes. Everything is good. Everything is good for something on this plate. And he goes, well, a little pizza ain't good for nothing.
I know I couldn't leave tonight without getting a honeymooners reference.
Yeah,
I knew it.
and he's got the pizza. And then he's saying this. He goes, "Will you stop waving that thing?" It's like it's honeymooners forever. Anyway,
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Bye,
all right.
everybody.
Take
I
care.
See you
can't.
soon. Bye.
Yeah, I said poor little old pizza. I think it's just poor little pizza. But it's like, poor little
Yeah.
pizza ain't good for nothing.
Yeah.
Will you stop waving that thing? I'm sorry. Well, anyway, that was really fun. Thanks. Tim. Thanks for your input too. It was great. It was a great three-way conversation there. And everybody in the comments too. Thanks very much. And thank you for your thoughts. Um, well, I hope you're right. I mean, I know, maybe it's just me.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. Any Beatle fan that's 43 years old or younger, which is probably half of the Beatle fans these days, wasn't even alive when John was alive.
Yeah,
So of
yeah,
course they're
yeah.
going to gravitate towards Paul. They're not going to
Yes.
gravitate towards the one that's not there.
That's why I've said, Paul, may you continue to do well. May you continue to have a lot of work for us. But when the day's going to come when Paul's gone, and I think after some time, it take a few years,
Yeah.
or maybe 5 years, 10 years, I don't know. Eventually, it's going to be four guys that were, and
Yeah,
it's going to
and
level out a little bit.
amongst rock people in the 80s, people forget this too. Paul was starting to be a little bit of a joke. I mean, he's
Yes.
doing Say, and he's
Yeah.
doing The Girl Is Mine, and he's doing the Press to Play album, and he
Yeah.
sang
Oh, yeah.
Spies Like Us, which was a good song, but not a good movie. And Paul was getting his share of booze
Well,
in
he's always
the
had that, and the
80s.
people don't. A lot of the
Yeah,
diehard McCartney camp doesn't want to
yeah,
say that. Oh, he could rock too. What about Helter Skelter? What about Jet? What about? Yeah, I know
yeah.
that, but he's always going to have that reputation as being,
Yeah,
oh,
and
Paul, you're doing sappy.
he almost refused to rock in the 80s. I don't know. I can't really think of Spies Like Us is probably the most rocking song he did in the 80s, and it's not that rocking.
Well,
Um,
Marcus, I want you to know, just so you know where I'm coming from. I can't explain it any better than I did, but I'll try. I want you to know, I say the same thing. Well, there hasn't been a time for you. It's true. I don't know what's happening with me. Um, I'm just saying this is something that I've been feeling or noticing lately. I'm trying to like kick it out of my head, like stop that, But I almost can't help it because it's like it's so much Paul, 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 Paul all the time. It's kind of tough. And I understand. John's always going to be my favorite. But so I don't know about this. I don't know about this. Is it really literally one of the worst things you could? It's not great, but you got tomato sauce and cheese. And the dough, the white flour is just, garbage. It's just, I forget, I can't remember,
Well, pizza is
non-nutritional.
basically bread with sauce on it, and
Tomatoes and
bread.
cheese aren't
The
that.
when they invented bread was one of the first things that actually made us turn from an animal into a person. It really is the fact that they could put ingredients together that would make this thing called bread. It was like literally the first food that was made that wasn't just picked off a tree. Um, and it evolutionary. It's very important.
No, I'm looking at a Beatles pick, but I'm not. I don't want to belabor this. I don't want to get into it too much. I make it like something that twist this and turn it. I know it's four Beatles. I always said you couldn't have the Beatles without those four guys. Those are the four guys. Don't say now, the Beatles. What about the new song? You got the four guys in the new song. Okay, but anyway, um, so yeah, I love all the Beatles, and they're all part of it. But I'm just saying that it's happening. Paul has been between Paul himself continuing to tour and continuing to be on TV talking about the Beatles and maybe like changing things a little or embellishing his role a little bit. It's easy to kind of get that feeling that he's the guy. I know there was a guy in the store several years ago who came in. He was 18. We talked about the Beatles. He said, "Yeah, I'm 18," and I said, "Okay, so what's going on?" He said, "Well, Paul was the main guy, right?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, every time the Beatles did something, he was buying Beatles albums, and he said he's getting into the Beatles. He says they had to go through Paul, right? They had to check with him first." And I said, "No, no, Paul wasn't the main guy." But see, this is how it's looking, and so I remember that. I was like, "Wow, this is the way a lot of people are thinking these days." You know.
Oh, Royce.
I love that song. I don't care if the and you see, I love that line. It's a stupid line, but when I love a dumb rock song, I love stupid lines. Why don't you might as well go all the way and sell your granny to the zoo? I love the way he sings it too. And while you're at it, get a hold of my psychiatrist. He's making money out of making me laugh. I don't know, but I wish that I could say the same about you. That's a good line. My psychiatrist is making money and making me laugh, but I don't know. I wish I could say the same about you, like you're making me laugh or happy or whatever. That's how I take it. I love that song, No Values. But he sings it like that way. I don't care. You ran away. I mean, I don't know why he does that so much. He does that on that freaking Russian album a lot too. I don't know why he does that at times, but he did. All right, all right. Let's forget about it. Yeah, I'm not drawn to just Paul alone either. But now we're gonna. But just do me a favor. Let's not rinse and repeat this and constantly badgering me in comments. 25 comments on this. We go back and forth. You know what I'm trying to say? It's all four guys. And yeah, when I look at Abbey Road, I see four guys. And even John is the leader in that one because he's in the front. I wouldn't say that about the Abbey Road cover. No. Anyway, whatever. I'm not gonna belabor it. Oh, look at that, Joe. It's okay. That happens. It's normal. Yeah, but it's okay with you. Whittling that for the Paul thing, you mean? Or something else? Uh, there you go, Martin Bench. Yes, indeed. Yeah, well, that was a nice moment. I like that. That was because John tried to say, "No, I'm not the lead." The lead. He goes, "Yeah, you are." Says, "Oh, sometimes, no, always." He says, "I'm like, wow, that was really nice. It's great. It's a great moment." Yeah, well, then again, Henry, you got to realize too. In your case, since I'm not, this is a compliment. This is not a put down. Since you're 21 years old, I mean, here's a case where, as a young guy yourself, you actually feel this. So you're an exception to what I rule. A young person who still can feel like John's a big influencer. So I tell you, Tim, if pizzas were manhole covers, the sewer would be a paradise. Paul McCartney and the Beatles. There you go. That's Woodland's feeling.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, well, the thing is, sugar is the worst thing for you, Alan. But pizza, the dough is the same. It does the same thing as the sugar does. When you
Yeah.
have refined white flour like that, it's like sugar. But believe me, when I was ill many, many decades ago, I had books in my closet. I had to study this stuff. Having said that, I want a pizza. But anyway, hello, Royce in the house. There you go. It's bad for your heart. Cholesterol laden mess. That is worse than pizza, though. It definitely is worse than pizza, I think. That said, I love it. Back to the John and Paul thing. Yeah, well, those are clueless fans. You're right. You're right. Uh, well, you got it in the wrong order. John, Paul, George, and Ringo. I think that's what you mean, right? John, Paul, George, and Ringo. And
Yeah.
it's funny because I remember in Mark Lewison's Tune In book, I think it was there, he said that's John. Well, with John first, John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Not only does it, he said, not only does it roll off the tongue, but it is the pecking order. That's always the order.
Yeah. I mean, it was John's band.
Yeah. Well, some people said, who was the one who said this once to me? I had an argument, and I kind of thought about this. I said it was John started the Beatles, and people said, no, no, no. John had Paul come in, and together they both started the Beatles. Like, they came into the Quarrymen, and then they formed the Beatles with George. So I thought about that, and I thought, like John didn't really form the Beatles, but that's up to you folks what you think of that one. I don't
See,
really.
I think it was just an evolution. I mean, John, except for adding Paul and maybe getting rid of somebody, it was still the same band for a while that he'd had already. He didn't like fire everybody and get a new band. It was just a slow evolutionary process.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's easy to say too that John discovered Paul. You know,
Yeah,
John realized Paul had talent, so he said, "Yeah, I want him in here." Ask him to
yeah,
join. So we could say, well, without John, there wouldn't be Paul. But I don't know about that because John wasn't going anywhere, in my opinion, without
no,
Paul.
no,
So
no, he
I
wasn't.
think Paul would have been something more than John would have
And,
been.
and, and George, and George, or Paul discovered George, and they sort of
Yeah,
all discovered
yeah,
Ringo.
yeah, yeah. It's really, yeah. But the funny thing is, even though they all liked Ringo and they all wanted Ringo, they always say that George really pushed a lot for
Yeah,
Ringo.
yeah, which is kind of perfect because
Yeah,
John brought in George, Paul, or John brought in Paul, Paul brought in George, and really George brought in Ringo.
yeah.
So it's
So that's
kind of
really see all that kind of stuff is part of the fun of the Beatles and the magic of the Beatles. I'm telling you, folks, this is another plane, but this didn't just happen. This was all orchestrated. The world needed the Beatles, and I believe in some cosmos, God, whatnot. This was meant to happen once like this. You know, I mean, there's been great bands, great artists, but there's something about this whole thing that was like really unique. The magic of it, the timing of it, the talent, all of it. So, Billy Preston literally called John the Boss Beatle at some convention. There's a video of him saying it, saying as such. If he's saying it, just goes to show John wasn't absent during Get Back. Well, you could see when you watch Get Back that John really rises to the occasion. Once they move to the new studio, it's really just in Twickenham that they're like,
yeah,
he's more
yeah.
lethargic.
Everybody except maybe Paul didn't hate Twickenham as much as the others, but the others all hated it. I mean, they
Yeah,
really, really all. I mean, George left for gosh sakes. I mean, they all hate Ringo. You sit there, you see him like this most of the time.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, they just hated it there.
Uh, When I first got into the Beatles, I could tell Paul was the heartthrob, the one girls loved, but I could tell John was the really special one, the one that did something more than just music. Okay. No, I don't think I know this person. So
No,
Martin says that order that he put. No, that's the new order. Paul, John, George,
no, it's
Ringo. I
not
don't
the
agree.
new
Well, I
order.
don't agree.
There's no new order.
But in people's excuse me, in people's minds, that's happening. That's what I'm
You, you
saying. That's what I said. That's what I said. Paul really is the main guy now.
you want a
But
new order? Go listen to New Order.
yes, this comes up almost every other day. Yeah. Meanwhile, Ringo said he's never had a slice of pizza in his life. He said
No, he didn't. He didn't do a commercial for Domino's. It was Pizza Hut.
a Pizza Hut with the
It
monkeys.
was Pizza Hut.
And then I remember I could still see him saying it. He goes, "You never had pizza? Yeah, you want some?" He goes, "Oh, you don't know what's in there." It's like so.
Yeah,
Woodland says, "Why did John's name have to go?" First of all, John, especially then, was the leader of the Beatles. I know they say they
yeah.
didn't
It
have a
was. It
leader.
was.
John was more or less the leader of the Beatles. It makes
It
sense that
was
John went
John's
first.
group,
It's
and they all
also
acknowledged it.
it's also alphabetical. If you want to say L and M, he comes to J and P, whatever. And Lennon and McCartney sounds better than McCartney Lennon, but then again, that could be because we're so used to it for so many decades. It sounds right to us. You know. Well, yeah, yeah, I'm okay with all that stuff for sure.
And it
Fake.
didn't always come first. On first pressings of the first album in the UK, it was McCartney Lennon, and then they fixed it for the songwriting.
To be fair to Paul, I will say that John and Paul started the Beatles, whereas the Quarrymen was John's band. See, that's what I'm thinking, really.
Well, but they were when Paul joined. It was still the Quarrymen when John or Paul
Paul,
joined. They
yeah,
didn't change the name immediately to something. It was still Paul
because
was
they
in the
didn't have
Quarrymen.
George in there. Then when I don't know exactly when, even though
Yeah, yeah, because they it's not well documented because they were the Silver Beatles and then they were the Beatles and then they maybe were the Silver Beatles again and maybe for a little while they were Johnny and the Moondogs. They they just would go do a gig and okay tonight we're Johnny and the Moondogs. Okay, here we go. I mean it wasn't thought out. It was just we need a name for tonight. Okay, well we'll be the Silver Beatles tonight.
well, the whole heroin thing, I really wonder how much that was. I mean, yeah, I know we had the heroin phase or whatever around that time, but geez, come on, he licked it, he beat it, he wrote a song called Turkey about it, and I don't think he really went back to it much after that. And he was trying everything. He would try everything. He was all about the pills and the drugs. He'd be the one that wanted to take Preludin, the pep pills in England. He'd be the one that wanted to try the acid the most, or after it was in his coffee. But he'd be the acid taking going out of control overboard. He would have done it all. He would have got the H even if it wasn't Yoko, whoever it was. And I don't even know how much evidence there is of that. That's another thing that oh, but I'm trying to like, well, when they say like, if they're talking amongst themselves, I'll leave that there. You can say that about any band though. Tom Petty went to visit a friend at a farmhouse to check out a set of drums, and in the back room was Mike Campbell playing Johnny B. Good. Okay, I'm lost with that a little bit. Yeah.
Well, it's probably how he met.
Oh, how you met? How you met?
Yeah, that's how they met, I guess.
Uh, well, even things like that. John being late. Like I'm not a late guy. I would never be late. Unless for me to be late, I have to be making a statement that I really don't care. I'm going to teach you that I don't want to be, but I'd be there
Well,
early. That's just.
it was Twickenham. John didn't like being there. I don't know that he was ever late when they moved to Apple. With a better environment and didn't mind being there.
Yeah, it's a good commercial with Ringo with the monkeys. He says, "Wrong, lads. It's time to get back together, lads. It's time to get back together." And the monkeys are there. So he goes, "Wrong, lads." Uh, okay, on the second things we said today interview, the new one, Peter Jackson said his team is working on the MAL software to convert demo audio quality to studio quality. All right.
You
Well,
know,
he's
I
working on it.
mean, most people aren't going to care about this, but I do. I think a great use that I haven't heard anybody talk about for like this mail software would be not necessarily opera records and stuff, but old records before microphones, records recorded like before 1928, where they were just singing into a tube that always sound like they're a million miles away. There was some really interesting music recorded then, but the fidelity is horrible. And that would be an interesting thing for the mail software to work on. I know that's a completely different change in topic, but
No, there's no topic.
to add fidelity to things that had no fidelity when they came out.
Yeah. I just put the link up again because I realized somebody might come up. Who knows? Okay. Just bouncing around. It's a big good night from your friend and mine. Paul being the workaholic doesn't mean anything. Well, I think with the Beatles, it meant a lot. They got a lot done, and yeah, a student who gets C's can have a higher IQ. Well, we're not.
Nobody
I
said
don't know who
Lennon
you're.
was stupid.
Yeah, I don't know who you're responding to or about what. But we're not saying he's
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah, we're not saying he's stupid.
But just that he wasn't.
He
It,
lost interest,
yeah, and
which
that's all right
can
too.
happen.
That's all right
That's
too.
basically what happened. Lennon found things he'd rather do than be in the Beatles. So did
Yeah, and there's
George.
nothing wrong with that. It's good, and I still say it's good they broke up. I still say it. Okay, they're going back and forth over there.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of caught up. The rest of what's going on in the comments right now is kind of
yeah,
back and forth stuff.
yeah,
Uh, so this has been good so far, and I got at least if I want to stay on till I got at least an hour or more.
yeah,
So this has been great. I mean, I really like this conversation today. Sometimes they're better than others. This is
yeah,
a real Beatles show and a lot of good thoughts all around from the guests on screen and from the people in the comments.
yeah. And I really would like to see the male technology work on the Hamburg tapes. I think that has the potential to be the best Beatle release since Pepper.
Well,
And
we
I'm
have talked
serious
about
about that.
so we talked about that. What Peter Jackson has said about that, right? The latest development of that.
Well, I've heard he does have the tapes and he has been working on them at least
Yeah,
some.
and that Apple's
Um,
not says they're not
yeah,
interested. But then
yeah,
again, they did say,
which is just absurd.
but they did say, but we're curious to see what you can do with them.
Yeah,
So, so that's what he said. He said to us. So it's like, okay, and I really, and he thinks that if he can do a really good result out of that, they might listen.
well, yeah. What I think Apple is sort of saying, without saying it, is we'd like to hear what you can do with them, but we're not interested in paying you for it. Basically,
Yeah, uh,
we're not interested in shelling out a whole lot of money so that you can work on these things and see what you get. If you get something, maybe we'll talk. That's what it sounds like to me.
mm. I see," said the blind man.
Because that's
Uh,
every company these days.
the 50th anniversary, in case you didn't know, of the Ringo album.
Yes,
We did a
yes,
Talk More Talk episode. Check out Talk More Talk, where we discussed the Ringo album and the Red and the Blue. We did the double show. First, we talked about the Red and the Blue. Then afterwards, we talked about the Ringo album. And boy, we're hoping it's not going to make it for this year, for the anniversary, but we hope this eventually gets some kind of a reissue and a little more deluxe type of treatment, even if it's only 2 or 3 CDs, just 2 or 3 CDs,
yeah,
something. I don't care if it's a get the words right, Tim, remastered
yeah,
album, and also just a disc of like sessions or something, and a little and
Yeah,
a book.
and there's a couple there's at least one B-side from that period that's not on the album. You can do certainly you should give at least as a bonus track the long version of 6 o'clock. And there are outtakes. I've got a decent bootleg of that
Yeah,
album, which is all outtakes. But the thing is the outtakes, none of the outtakes are all that different from the finished.
right. That
That's the
happens.
thing. They went in and pretty much knew what they were doing. So
Yeah.
there's not a lot of evolution going on.
But you could put if you could go find all those takes of the run throughs that John did of "I'm the Greatest," put them on
Yeah,
there. There's this stuff you could do,
yeah,
even if it's just a little bit. Do something to honor it.
yeah.
Um, you don't have to be 7 CD sets.
And there are my favorite thing about it, because I edited a couple together, is the bootleg has like 3 different versions because they did it separately of the ending of 6 o'clock. So there's 3 different versions of it that I have, and they're all great and they're all very different. Those are because Paul doing his vocalizing in the back is different in all of them, and the, I love that. I wish that would have been on the album. I don't know
Well,
why they
let's
cut it
see.
out.
Let's see. The long one's good is really good.
I mean,
Um,
it's on CD, thank goodness. But
yeah. Um, no, I agree with this. I agree with this. I mean, come on. You can't deny it, really. He really, I don't know about Pepper or the White Album, but at some point, Paul really had a push, and I'm glad he did. But then again, they were done. I love it that Abbey Road is their last hurrah at that. Yeah, and everybody's gonna catch me. Oh, I thought you said now and then. Yeah, yeah, that was their last hurrah in 1969 or 70, if you want to say. And then three of the members came back and decided to form as the Beatles in 1994 or five. Decided to do a song as the Beatles for one song, George, Paul, and Ringo, and then Ringo and Paul one more time at one song in 2023. I don't know why people have a problem with that. I think I keep saying I use Led Zeppelin as an example too, right? Because Led Zeppelin was not together, and then they went to Live Aid, and they had for that show they were Led Zeppelin
yeah.
again.
Well, no, they weren't actually. They refused to be called Led Zeppelin. They were all
Oh,
introduced individually on the
oh
stage.
shit!
They
So
refused
much
to
for
be
that.
Led
Thank you, Tim.
Zeppelin.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
feel like a
Well,
schmuck.
no, they made a big deal out of that.
Well, everybody knew it was a Led Zeppelin reunion, but
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
But yeah, but I mean, shit, you can do that, and it's like I always wonder. Like I was going to bring up the Wonder Who, and I didn't really know if that was a good example. Like when he did that record, the Wonder Who instead of the
Hmm.
Four Seasons, were they really the Four Seasons, or were they the Wonder Who? It's what you want to call yourself. You are whatever you want to call yourself. That's what that is. Maybe I'm
Exactly.
wrong.
And I want to answer Henry's question
All right,
here.
where is it? This one here?
Yeah, right there. I would say they're equal, but for their own time. I mean, I think George or Phil Spector was probably the best rock and roll producer that ever lived until 1964. But the sounds changed. The Beatles changed the sound. Phil
Yeah,
Spector wouldn't have
yeah.
been any good for the Beatles.
I was just going to
But
say
what
that.
he did for the Ronettes and the Crystals and that, absolutely amazing. And what George Martin did for the Beatles, absolutely amazing. It's like which do you like better, a Snickers bar or mashed potatoes? It's 2 different things. You can't really
Yeah,
compare them. They're very different producers. For the
I
Beatles, George Martin by a mile,
I
and I am
agree.
including Let It Be.
I don't know if you'd want Phil Spector to produce the Beatles in
No,
63, 64. I don't know
no,
about that.
no, no, no.
but
But
but I love
what
what I
he was
love what
amazing.
Phil Spector did with Let It Be. I just love what he did with that. And
Yeah,
those are the
yeah,
versions that became hits. Those are the ones. I mean, Long and Winding Road with the Strings. Whatever else it was. I mean, that's the hit. So
yeah.
it worked.
And I'm sorry, Long and Winding Road is this lovely little song without all that stuff, but it's not a hit single. It wouldn't have been a
Yeah.
#1 record if that got put out. There's
Yeah,
no
don't
way.
forget and Get Back, Paul's actually entertaining the possibility of putting strings on it too in the Get Back. They're talking about it a little bit at one point. Uh, okay, we'll throw this up there. Yeah, that's kind of weird for sure, but it is what it. Sorry, Pete, but uh,
That must have been really weird for Mal.
yeah,
Must just
yeah. I say that. I mean, I always say the White Album shows all four Beatles on their strengths. You know, they're all operating full on that. Even Ringo. I mean, and what he does. You know, Good Night and stuff, and Don't Pass Me By is still Ringo uh, doing well. I think all of them are strong on there and have their
and
moments.
I think Ringo's drumming on the White Album is outstanding.
Yep. I don't know. I don't know what the problem is with them. I really don't.
Yeah.
People who well, I don't know about hate the song. Some people do hate it. Philip Norman sounded like he hated it.
Oh,
I heard his like little comments on it. I forget. Well, I don't know how to access them again, but I was scrolling on my phone and there he was talking about it. But I don't understand. I just don't understand it. All I will say is I don't. I'm not making any claim that it's the best thing they ever did, or that it's right up there with Let It Be or Hey Jude or anything like that, Strawberry Fields or anything. But I do think it's a solid Beatle emotional
yeah, no,
song.
it's way. I've said it a million times. It's way better than it has any right to be.
Yeah.
It's really good, but I just think in 2023 there is an occupation. Well, it started probably about 2020, but there's a new occupation that many people have taken up, and it is as professional hater. That's what they do for a living. They hate things for a living. Great.
Interesting. What's interesting about this too is I don't know about this because I mean I think John might have for a while entertained the idea of doing both, and he did. And in fact, I think he brought Cold Turkey, the song, to the Beatles
Yeah.
first. He was going to do it as a Beatles song, and they didn't want to do it, or Paul or whoever didn't want to do it. And he said, "Okay, I'm just going to do it on my own then." Plastic Ono, but he would have done it as the Beatles. So I could have done both, but they're talking about the Beach Boys and is the earlier it was said are the Beach Boys like this is it here, but are the Beach Boys really the Beach Boys without Brian Wilson?
I say
Um,
no, but
you know, yeah, that's the thing that's so damn tough. But people do that all the time. I saw there was a Herman's Hermits band one time without Peter Noon in it.
yeah, I saw him. I saw Herman's Hermits without Peter
I
Noon.
mean, come on, in my mind, no, it's not. But you see, that's the thing. Then they might call me. Well, how come you say? How can you even say Now and Then is a Beatles song without
And
John and George,
and,
but you don't
and
say that? It gets crazy. I don't
that
know.
was in the Monkeys in '86 or '87, whenever it was. The only good artist that performed that night was the Monkeys. There was what's it, Gary Puckett without the Union Gap, and he was okay, but he shows up in tight leather pants. Now he's in his mid 40s at this point, at least, and like
Well, he's the whole thing.
a wife beater T-shirt on, and I'm like, what the
Like
hell
Peter
is this,
T-shirt.
man? And then this guy comes out who was the lead guitarist of Herman's Hermits. No idea his name, and that's the only original guy from Herman's Hermits. And then Rob Grill comes out as the grassroots and
Yeah, yeah.
it's I don't know what he's singing, but it's not what the band is playing. There wasn't one song where they were together, and I'm just like, this is absolutely dreadful. And I'm like, I hope the Monkeys are good, and the Monkeys were good. Thank
Yeah, the
goodness.
monkeys. That's a weird thing because the monkeys have so many different combinations.
Yeah, yeah.
But
No,
but
I
maybe
didn't get to see Nesmith with
I
them.
don't know. It's hard. It's hard to say. So, and then I think Gary Puckett. I think. Well, I don't. Again, I don't know. To me, it's Gary Puckett. As long as he's singing with that voice, I don't care who's
Yeah.
backing him up.
But looking at him
But
in the tight leather pants
no,
and
I
the
don't mean
white
that.
beater
I just
T-shirt
mean
and a mullet. I can't forget the
forget
damn
that.
mullet. I'm just like,
No, I just mean the question of whether it's Gary Puckett without the Union Gap or whatever we were
uh,
saying, other than the look. I mean, I say, look, I just want Gary Puckett. The Rolling Stones, if Mick Jagger wasn't
yeah.
here and they tried doing the Stones without Mick Jagger. To me, that's
Yeah,
not the Rolling Stones. But then again,
yeah,
I don't know what to say, you know. But on these Beatles songs from the '90s, they're all on them,
yeah,
you know.
exactly,
At
exactly.
least, you
And
know.
let me answer Henry's question with one word. The first one about
Which
the
one's that?
Beach Boys, Mike Love.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Look at this. What a loaded question this is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the Eagles CDs are great for adjusting the anti-skate on your turntable. They're
I
great
like the
for that.
Eagles. I like the Eagles.
They're
The most I
great
could
for
say
that.
is that a lot of their songs are way overplayed on the radio. But other than that,
They're just me. I don't hate them. They're just I like them better than say Journey or Kansas or REO Speedwagon. But they're just they're white bread basically, and I'm not that into white bread. Yes, that's the question I just answered.
oh,
Yes.
sorry,
That's
paying a
the
lot of
one.
attention.
Yes, yes. No, he is the least talented of the Beach Boys by far.
I mean, you can, you know, man, this stuff never bothered anybody or that much back in the day, you know.
Yeah, yeah. No, no.
But I mean, you know, whatever, you know, I don't know. It's whatever.
And
I love the song.
you know the dating. Hey, let's talk about the culture of the 50s and the 60s. When you out with a girl, it didn't mean you were sleeping with her. You know,
That's
I
another
mean,
thing.
you
That's
weren't
not.
even necessarily kissing her. You went on a date. Maybe you held hands. You know,
I want to hold your hand.
it was a different thing. You know, and couples were generally farther apart anyway. Most guys in up till the late 60s, their wives were at least 5 years younger than they were. That was just how it
Yeah,
was.
yeah, yeah. The US 16 thing is another thing that, you know, I'm just so tired of that too, but whatever. I mean, it's, you know, Ringo doesn't really do that anymore, but he did do it for a long time,
Yeah,
US 16.
yeah.
But it's not meant to be taken that literal. I don't know.
Oh, again, it's not like you. It's not that these
Maybe
songs
it's
aren't
the age
about
of the
sex.
consent.
They're about young love. You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. It's just it's crazy.
you
I don't
know,
want to entertain it too much.
again, you know, my father was 5 years older than my mother. Most people were, at least. It's just how it was.
That's a fair question, but I think they both harmonized well. I don't know if I have you know, I love the Beatles. Maybe I'd say the Beach Boys had
Yeah,
a special thing about them. That's part of their style. That's part of their, I don't know, bread and butter.
yeah.
But I still
Well,
think they both were good.
I would say the Beach Boys just because, you know, they the Beatles worship Buddy Holly and Chuck Berry and the Beach Boys worship the four freshmen, you know. I mean, so they come from different backgrounds. The Beach Boys came from a harmony background. That's what they listened to. So yeah, I would give it to the Beach Boys, but not by a whole lot.
Dirty Max, Dirty Mac.
Oh yeah, there's lots of Beatles spin-off. What other ones are there?
Um,
I
Ringo.
know
Well,
there's
but
more.
what qualifies Ringo and the Roundheads? Does that qualify?
Yeah, Ringo and the Roundheads would be one, I guess. I'm sure there's more that I'm not thinking of. Um,
Money, money. Yes, no. TCR. I think because of the
yeah,
money. That's what.
exactly. Money.
And you know what? Anybody says Paul and Ringo don't need the damn money. I don't believe. You know.
No,
I tell you, there are some people that actually. There was one guy who was like, I was entertaining his nonsense for a few days in the comments in one thread, and he was going on and on about how it's all about the money for Paul, this thing with the new single and all. I'm like, you know, look, he doesn't need the money, and I do think Paul is a little likes money, but he doesn't need it. And you know, with the Beatles were offered so much money in the '70s to reunite for one
yeah,
show for millions of dollars. It was always about if they believed in it, if they had something to say, if it was
yeah.
worth it to them. It wasn't just about, oh, give me the money and run. So that's nonsense. They have something to say. This
It's
particular song was a real thing for Paul, and a real
Yeah.
thing in his
No,
heart.
it's not about the money. And people think the artists have like control over what gets put out and stuff too, and they don't. I was saying this back when McCartney 3 came out. It's like it's not McCartney going, well, let's see if Spotify will put out an edition. Let's see if no, it was people going to the McCartney camp and going, can we put this out? And McCartney going, yeah, okay, go ahead. It's not it doesn't work that the other way. It
Like,
just doesn't. It's not the way life is.
I don't know what I think of this. They're great harmonies, but I don't know about this. Beach Boys do some pretty
Yeah.
amazing harmonies.
Yeah, I don't know about that. They are really nice harmonies, but
About her age. Is this evident in the song lyrics, or is this a theory?
it might be in the song. I haven't heard the song in a long time, but it might be in the song. But either way, I mean,
It just
there are
sounds
all
like
kinds of songs like that. Go
she's
away, little
pursuing him.
girl.
It sounds like me. She's pursuing him, and if I'm
The,
thinking of the words, and
Steve
she's
Lawrence sang "Go Away, Little Girl."
yeah, go
Gary
away,
U.S.
little girl.
Bonds in the very late '70s. This little girl is mine. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
no, and
it's just
nobody gave a damn. Nobody
yeah,
thought about it.
yeah.
So a lot of
It's
people,
just the song.
yeah, and a
It's
lot
not
of people will
it's not
say, "Well, that's the problem."
serious.
That was a lot of people will say, "Tim, that was the problem with the world yesterday, because they didn't get it. Too much stuff they let
But
go,
but they'll
and
they'll
now
hear
today it's
these
better."
semi-rap people. Like, was it Shaggy? Who was it that sang that song about screwing in every room of the house, getting naked? And that's okay. That's fine. No problem with that. And I don't. Songs weren't about sex. Now songs can be blatantly about sex. Oh, that's okay. But don't sing about going on a date with a 16-year-old girl. You're just going to a movie. I don't.
Yeah, I know
I don't
exactly.
see the
And by the
problem.
way, the line in "I saw her standing there" need
Yeah.
not mean that the guy's so much older than her or anything. Too,
No.
it could just be he could be 17. I mean, I know that sounds stupid,
Yeah.
but they could both be 17 and say, and
Yeah.
how hot, like, or seven, she's 17 and I'm 7,
Yeah.
and I know what I mean. She's really hot. I mean,
Right.
it doesn't mean anything, and the singer doesn't always have to be the person singing the song. You know what I mean? Like, people think the singer. I can think of a good example, but you could name almost anything. That if Ringo's singing "You're 16" at the age of
Yeah.
32, like it's him, Ringo Starr, that's
Yeah.
longing for the girl who's 16. He's it could be anything. The person in the song, the singer, whoever it would be in the world, is singing "You're 16." I'm not wording it well. Hopefully, people know my theory of what I mean. And that's a great line anyway. She was just 17.
Yeah.
And 17, maybe she was 17 and 11 and a half months, for God's sake. I mean, really,
Yeah.
come on.
But
Just stop.
the age of consent was 16 back
Well, there's
then
that too.
anyway.
There's that
So,
too.
that's the other thing. People will, well, that was wrong. Maybe it was wrong, but it was the law. It was how life was, and it doesn't mean that you're right either. It just means that it's different now.
Hello, Starman.
That's
We had some
that's
really
the
good.
other thing because hey Burnley, because things are different now doesn't mean that they're right now and they weren't right then. It doesn't mean that. It just means that this is how it is now and that's how it was then.
Yeah.
It doesn't. There's no right or wrong implied here.
There you go. Okay. It's in the song, young girl. What's the lyric, please? I mean, I'm not doubting you. I want to like hear what you're saying. Maybe I can put it in perspective.
Yeah,
I'm thinking. I don't know. It just sounds to me, young girl, get out of my mind. My love for you is way out of mind. But a run, girl. You're much too young, girl. That's to make up. You're just a girl.
I think there is a part towards. I think at the end he might reveal that she was lying about her age. I can't remember.
Hurry home to your mother.
And by the way, I want to say, Burnley reminded me. I don't know if there's even anybody else here, but anybody that listened to my stream last night, thank you. That's all I want to say.
Not that big a difference, really, really.
Yeah, no, it's too.
Oh
Like I
yeah, this
said,
thing. Look, this thing too. This gets me. I had an argument with a guy once. Not a, before I ever made videos. This was on some forum, and the guy said that song is disgusting, and it's a child predator song. I'm like, you're out of your freaking mind. I mean, I think of it
exactly,
as a term of affection. You know,
exactly.
my honey bunch, my little child. That's all it means. It
Yeah,
doesn't mean literally a little child.
exactly. People are insane,
Do
man.
you
They
remember what
really,
I told?
really
Did I ever
are.
tell you what the guy said to me? He goes, "But Joe, listen to the lyrics." He says, "What do little children do when they're like approached? They run and hide." So it says, "Don't you run and hide." It's like, are you for real? It's a. I can't think what the word is. Is it anachronism? What, or is it a metaphor? Just run and hide.
Yeah,
Don't try to avoid me. I want my advances for you, whatever. It's not. It's let me give me a chance. It doesn't mean literally run and hide because daddy's coming over. People are nuts. They're nuts.
yeah. No, they are. And yet, this is what I don't understand. They're all worried about that, but yeah, everybody just sleeps with anybody. Nobody cherishes a relationship anymore. Nobody even wants to be in a
Right. It could
relationship.
just be that.
That's all fine. But oh my God, some guy again wanting to hold somebody that's 19 wanting to hold a 16-year-old hand. Oh my God, well, that's
I
get
was
over it.
19, and
That's the
when I
way
was
it
19,
was.
and I went out with
Again,
a girl
the
that
age
was.
of consent was 16
I went out with a
until
girl that was 16 when I was 19 for a little while, and
probably the
we
80s.
didn't do anything. Believe me when I mean it, you know.
Yeah,
But nobody, but didn't even think about it.
yeah. Or,
Even her parents
again,
didn't think anything of it.
Elvis's little sister. And in nowhere in Elvis's little sister do they say how old this girl is. All she is the younger sister of the girl that he dated before. She might be 25. You don't know.
Okay, with all the charms of a woman, you've kept the secret of your youth. You led me to believe you. Oh, yeah. Oh, geez. How could I not? That's blatant line. How could I not know that
Yeah,
line? You're
yeah.
right.
But you got to
Oh,
blame the
shit.
guy anyway.
Well,
You
thank you,
have
Mix
to.
64. I love this song, and I totally forgot that line. With all the
Yeah.
charms of a woman, you've kept the secret of your youth. You led me to believe you're old enough to give me love, and now it hurts to know the truth. Wait a minute. Maybe not. You led me to believe you're old enough to give, because you're not old. Oh, right. Yeah. You
Yeah.
said you were older. That's right. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. And also that song. Now this is a hard one, but "Little Children" by Billy J.
That's
Kramer and the
see
Dakotas.
that's nothing to
Right, it
me.
is
That's
nothing,
the
but people really look at some of the words. What do they say? I'll give you candy. Is that what he says or something?
he's
No,
trying
I know. Good
he's trying to get with the little children's sister, so
sister.
he's giving them money to go to the movies.
He's
That's
like,
all that is.
and he's like, don't tell your
He's
sister,
not after
but
the little children. He's
you're right.
after
He's
the
not after
older
the children.
sister.
It's just that people hear the words, and I'm
Yeah,
just
no, he's after the older sister.
I was playing devil's advocate with that. It's like,
Yeah, yeah, that's the most ridiculous one of all because he's just offering the children a quarter to go to the movies, so he can be alone. He can sit on the swing on the porch with the sister again in total innocent song, you know.
it tries to pull your hair out. Now, out of these albums, all three of them are great. It depends on my mood for me, but I actually, if I had to pick one, I'd pick the White Album, and that's only because of probably the amount of versatile stuff on it.
I go back and forth between Rubber Soul and Revolver. For me, White Album would be third on that list. But between Rubber Soul and Revolver, it depends on the day that you ask me. It's weird. I like the individually. I like the songs on Revolver more than individually. I like the songs on Rubber Soul. But as an album, as a listen, most of the time I like Rubber Soul better. As a
Mhm.
whole album.
For me, Rubber
Yeah.
Soul would be third. I'd be wrestling between Revolver and the White Album. But the thing is, I mean, I don't get all the hoopla about Rubber Soul, and that's not. And when I say that, I mean not that I don't think it's a great album. It is. I just don't. I still don't see it personally as being that much of a leap from Help. People think it is. Fine. I think Revolver's a big leap from Help. Rubber Soul to me is a little more of the same kind of thing, but they have a sitar now on, Norwegian Wood, and they have further in my life, but in my life is comparable to yesterday, like in the sense of putting stuff on it, and yesterday in my life. That's but when you start getting to Tomorrow Never Knows, and Your Bird Can Sing, maybe. Uh, Eleanor Rigby. I'm trying to think of all the songs. Doctor Robert. I'm Only Sleeping. When you start getting into that stuff, to me, then you're jumping more. But so anyway, I like Rubber Soul. Uh, you know, uh, I don't know. It's a boy. Uh, yeah, Never Been a Beauty Queen. Time to Hide is one of the best Wings tracks. I like that song. Time to hide. By the way, you know what I watched yesterday just for the hell of it? I put on the Rockestra document, Making of Rockestra. Did you ever see that?
No, I've never seen it.
It is really fun. I mean, it's a short film that I hope gets on the Back to the Egg thing. It starts out, and the quality's never really that great. You can see what's happening. It's not that bad, but it's a little
Yeah.
shaky. And it starts out with Paul at home on the piano, right? Doing on the piano the sound, whatever it is, the melody of the Rockestra theme. And then he decides he wants to put musicians on it, so he phones up wherever he can phone up, and they go to Abbey Road, and whoever shows up shows up. Some of them could make it, some of them couldn't. So he said, "Rockestra will be whatever shows up." He said. So I figured, even if it's only 3 people, that'll be Rockestra. Or if it's 12 people, that'll be Rockestra. So, well, then he show you who everybody coming in, and it's great because it's them working on it, and the whole band, and well, there's an example right there too, right? Because like they all were rockestra for that
Hmm.
track, right? And even also for then they do "So Glad to See You Here."
Yeah,
Paul's
so
like,
glad to see you here.
yeah.
It was Rockestra
So,
too.
and, that's what I mean for that song. For those songs, they were rockestra. They,
Hmm.
same thing with the Beatles with Now and Then or whatever. For
Yeah,
one song, you know, and yeah. Anyway, and it's great, and then you have to see. I mean, it's really good. But it's of course it's always been bootlegged. But I'm really hoping they have a nice copy of that whenever they get to putting around Back to the Egg. Oh, so where are we at here? Oh yeah, okay. Kiss. So going blind. I'm 93 and you're 16. And Kiss. Well, what are you gonna do?
yeah. I would like to see McCartney's entire performance from Campuchia. I know they filmed it. They recorded it and they filmed it.
Well, I've
Um,
told you this before that I suspect this could be somebody else, but nevertheless, well, as I've said before, they don't want to dance for a little child.
yeah,
It's little child is a term of an affection. Honey bunch,
yes,
my darling. That's all that it means. Hey, little child. That's all it means. It's a term
yeah,
of affection. It's ridiculous to
yeah.
think to otherwise. But in the in the cartoon, they had a little child. I think the Beatle cartoon, a little child. Where he goes like, "No, come, little child," and it dance with him. But that's not what the meaning of the damn song. Come on. Every breath you take. Well, first of all, wasn't that about Sting's son or child himself? I could be wrong on that. You'll have to look it up. I love that song, but
It, it it is creepy. It's about basically a stalker.
well, like I said, look it up because I thought I heard. And again, I don't claim to be right on it. I've been proven wrong lots of times,
Yeah,
But I thought I heard somewhere, and I want to see if my memory's right, that it was actually about his. Does he have children, like a son or something?
he would have had a very. I don't even know if his son was born yet. I think his son was born like a year or two after that album came out.
But that's another one,
Um,
like literally again, like stalking, like
but no, he's talked about that. I mean, if you ever, I remember watching it when it was on. When he was on Unplugged, he talks about every breath you take, and he's like, people play this at weddings and stuff, and he's like, it's their song at weddings, and he's like, are you listening to the words?
Oh, well,
It's
now
about a guy, it's about a guy stalking a woman
he said that.
constantly. Everywhere, every breath you take, every move you make, I'll be watching you.
But then again,
He's like, that's what it's
if
about.
look, if he's right about, if he says that that's what it's about, then he's the one who
Yeah,
knows, right? But
yeah,
otherwise, it's taking lyrics literally again, like little child, which we're trying to avoid.
yeah,
But if he said that, then that's what it is.
yeah.
But
No, he
I
wrote it
really want to
about,
see the
you
meaning of it.
know, an obsessed guy, basically, a guy obsessed with a woman. That's what it's about.
All right, now where the hell is this, man? Origins and songwriting. Uh-oh. Okay. Sting wrote the song in 1982 in the aftermath of his separation from Francis So-and-so and the beginning of his relationship with Trudy Styler. Their split was controversial. The problem was, quote, he was already married to actress Frances Tomelty, I can't say it, who just happened to be Trudy's best friend. Sting and Frances lived next door to Trudy in London for several years before the two of them became lovers. The affair was widely condemned. To escape the public eye, Sting retreated to the Caribbean. He started writing the song. The lyrics are words of a possessive lover who is watching every breath you take, every move you
Yeah,
make. Sting recalled, I woke up in the middle of the night with that line in my head, sat down at the piano, had written it in half an hour. The tune itself is generic. I can't do the word, an aggregate of hundreds of others, but the words are interesting. It sounds like a comforting love song. I didn't realize at the time how sinister it is. Yeah, you're right. I was thinking of Big Brother, surveillance and control. Uh, yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
It's
Where did I
not.
hear that from then? I mean, I think I thought I heard it from him, but I guess your
I
mind
don't
plays
know.
tricks on
Well,
you.
I mean, I don't. He might have a son with his first wife. I don't know. I just know that weirdly, in the middle of his Bring On the Night film, it cuts to his then wife going into labor, and they actually show the birth of the baby in the middle of the film. And I'm like, I don't need to see this in a concert film. Um,
Well, I actually like it. Now, Stalker to me is a little serious, but I like it being about about that. I think I like that better than it really sounds literal, like you're gonna really watch it with binoculars and all. But I thought he said it was like Big Brother, but
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know. But yeah, I like it anyway. You know that story? Tim, you put your earplugs in because you probably don't want to hear this again. But that's one of my in your life. You have experiences with songs that are magic, and that was one of mine. Before I get to Starman, I was 21 years old. I was listening to the radio. I was on my driving to work in the morning. It came on the new song by the Police. And I don't like the Police, but I love that song. That song came on. I loved it. I was like, that sounds nothing like the other Police songs. It's not the same formula, reggae, whatever they did. Don't Stand and all this and Roxanne. Roxanne I like too. Anyway, so I said, "Oh, this is so good," and this doesn't happen anymore. I'm like, I can't wait after work. I'm gonna buy this. First listen, I'm like, this is a great single. Wound up being such a big hit, right? I have an ear for these things, and I'm like, I'm gonna get it, and I did, and that's one of the best experiences I ever had with a new song. Anyway, people who come up with these things are people who don't know these songs or artists. They just want to get hung up on something and start an argument. Yes, I think that's part of it a lot of
yeah,
times.
yeah. Professional haters. It's a new occupation for the 21st century.
Uh, just looking here. Simply best line of kiss. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get ahead. Oh, this is where I was. But it is kind of creepy. But I don't take it literally like you see in movies and something like he's going out. He's got a picture clipped out of a magazine and he's pasted it up on the wall and he's going around like, I don't know. I don't take it that literally, but I like that meaning better than it being about you know, looking after his new son or something like that. I like it better.
No, no,
Thank
it's
God.
about, yeah, no, it's about that. I mean, Oh, I mean, the creepy part for me is, at least in modern day terms, is the line, "Oh, can't you see you belong to me?" That word
Well,
"belong," but
no. I think that, in my opinion only, in my opinion, I think that's us doing what we say others are doing. Belong could have a general thing, not literally like, you're mine. I don't care what anybody does. I'll kill whoever it takes to get through. You're going to be mine. I think, well, I'm not saying you're saying kill, but
no,
you belong. I felt like that. You're mine. We're meant to be. I don't. But anyway, I love this song anyway. So whatever. Uh, wow. Learn something new every day. Hello, Elliot. Elliot's here. And don't forget, Help. The song Wait on Rubber Soul came from the Help sessions.
yep.
Not that's only one song, but
And I'm sorry, I don't hate the song or anything, but "Help" would have been a better album if Wait was on it instead of "Dizzy Miss Lizzie." "Dizzy Miss
I
Lizzie"
know
just
Dizzy Miss Lizzie is
it just
trash.
doesn't fit on the album. It's a great song. It would have fit very nicely on Beatles 65, but it's just,
In my opinion, a lot of things don't fit on Help, but I think that just
oh,
act naturally. Nothing. A lot of these things don't fit, but that's because I grew up with Yesterday and Today, and I grew up
yeah,
with Beatles
yeah,
6. And Rubber Soul with the songs being on Rubber Soul. To me, it's just a hodgepodge mess side to of Help. And as far as this goes, Willen, if I may say, well, I've already conceded Norwegian Wood. Okay, so because of the sitar, so that's out of the way. For Run for Your Life, Run for Your Life is he's done things like that. The
yeah.
only thing about that is I'd rather see you dead. He said things. I'm going to leave you
That's
flat.
a throwaway, and that doesn't sound modern at all. That could have been as far back as
Yeah,
65 for me. Really, I mean, it's just a rock and roll song, and that doesn't fit that well on
but
Rubber
if you're
Soul.
referring to the lyrics, like I said, he's done things like that before. I'm going.
Yeah,
I'll cry instead.
yeah,
You can't do that. What he's going to do, he's not going to be happy with the girl. I'm going to leave you for. So that's not
yeah.
new. And
And
in
he
my
just
life,
ripped
I've
off
already said this
Elvis.
yesterday.
They needed one more song or some. I can't remember why he wrote it, but he ripped off Elvis and he wrote it really quick and he just
Yeah.
did it. And
So I Nowhere Man. I don't. I love Nowhere Man. I just don't see it that. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't see it that different from things they've done already. And but
uh, Nowhere Man might be my favorite John song in the Beatles.
well,
I like it that much.
you kidding, right? I don't know. Is it a big change? Maybe it is. It has
That's
I'm
for
a
sure.
Loser on it. John again, but
No,
anyway, no
because
reply.
there's I love when the Beatles do covers. Okay, I'm not one of these people that, oh my god, the Beatles are doing covers again. But I don't think I think the covers on Beatles 65 or Beatles for Sale, whichever you want to call it, are some of the weaker covers. They're some of the best too, but I think some of the weaker as well.
Somebody told me the other day, well,
Uh,
somebody said something to me the other day, which I've always thought. I never heard anybody really say it. Words of Love, I think, is one of the best harmonies with John and Paul ever. And I think
oh yeah,
it really
no,
blows away Buddy Holly's version, who I really like Buddy Holly. I don't respect Buddy
that's
Holly, but I love the Beatles.
probably my third or fourth favorite song on Beatles
And rock and roll
65.
music, I'm sorry, rock and music's great to me, Um,
I don't think they do that great of a job. It's okay, but I don't. I think there are way better Beatle covers than rock and roll music. Just for me,
Rubber Soul was very Bob Dylan influenced. Uh, I'm a Loser was Dylan
well,
influenced.
you
So was
got
You
to
Gotta
hide your
Hide
love away is
You,
definitely
you
Bob
Gotta
Dylan
Hide Your Love Away.
influence,
But don't forget,
but
I still think Bring It All Back Home and Highway 61 are very Beatles and other bands, pop bands or rock bands influenced. So I don't know. It's my opinion.
well,
Uh,
it is, but if you know enough about Dylan, you know that Dylan started out as a rocker, and Dylan always liked rock and roll.
yeah.
He did folk because he didn't need a band. He could just go to a cafe and start playing songs, and so he became a folkie. But he always wanted to be a rock star. That was what he kind of always wanted to do.
And he got that chance. Try to shut this off. Okay. Um, I want my way played. I guess my way. I did it
I
my
I don't know.
way.
I don't know. I probably won't have a funeral.
To many people's chagrin. Today they could. The whole out of everybody. Yeah, they could because everybody does. Even tribute bands do it. The whole
Yeah,
album.
Cheap Trick did it live in concert. It
Can
couldn't be
I join in? I
performed.
don't know
It's not
Yakking
like
with
it
Friends
can.
well enough. Sorry,
When you
Tim.
got somebody like Wixie who would be back there on keyboards if the Beatles were going today. I mean, they would have extra people just like everybody else did. And Wixie can do anything. Wixie can come with any sound he wants. And yeah, they could do it live easy.
This is crazy. The Beatles will last longer than Universal's Frankenstein,
Yeah,
and it's hard for me to say that.
I, it's two different things. Again, I don't know. Film and music are two different things.
1983 was a fantastic year for me, and like I said, of course, I tell you, there's one song that stopped me dead in my tracks in the car. I said, uh, like I'm a promoter, record promoter. I'm like, this is it. This is the sound, baby. It's what's happening, And I went and I bought it. Doesn't surprise me at all. Hey, Dave Pounds likes Run for Your Life. Yeah.
Yeah, but he stole it from Elvis. Well,
A
he
line.
heard it from Elvis. Elvis obviously didn't write it. He stole it from whoever wrote it. And I think Otis Blackwell, maybe. I don't know.
Well, other than that line, I mean, I like everything
Yeah,
else in it going on in it too, not just that line. But
yeah, but it's Baby Let's Play House. Whoever wrote Baby Let's Play House.
that's what it means. Going to leave you flat, leave you.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're going to flatten her. Or something.
No,
Wait till
no, no. I mean, if flat broke,
you're going to leave you flat.
the word flat broke comes from flat. It just means without anything. Flat, nothing. Flat means nothing. It's a synonym for nothing. Flat, nothing.
I'm gonna just take a moment. I gotta just go in the other room. So just take a moment here, Tim.
All right. I like Everybody Trying to Be My Baby is the closer for Beatles for Sale. I think that's a good closer. That's what I think about that. Yeah, I'm just reading comments here, trying to catch up. I was just thinking that about the EP. There could have been an EP in '65 which had like Dizzy Miss Lizzy and Bad Boy and maybe Act Naturally and one of the other songs from around that period. Leave My Kitten Alone. There's an EP. Leave My Kitten Alone, Act Naturally, Dizzy Miss Lizzy, and Bad Boy.
So what I missed? Looks like the same questions are here. No, I don't think so. Unless it's business. I sure would like her to write a book. I'm
I
sorry, but I
think
would.
she was paid a lot of money not to.
Yeah, but like I say, once he's dead, that doesn't matter
Yeah,
unless it's
exactly.
legally binding.
Like I said the other night, maybe even last night, give it a year after he dies, and then stuff will start coming out. But nothing will come out the first year.
And like I said, nobody's going to want to believe it, any of it. But there will be people who will, and it's like with John this stuff. It'll become like the new narrative. It will. So you got people say, I don't believe her. What a piece of garbage she is. Who cares what she. Then other people are going to, right or wrong, they're going to go with it. So that's what happens with gossip.
Yeah.
No,
Well, because
I like Leave My Kitten Alone as a another thing, but I don't think it was good enough to be on the
Well,
album.
somebody was saying, and I agree, around 65, there maybe could have been an EP early 65 that had like Bad Boy, Dizzy Miss Lizzie, maybe Act Naturally, and maybe Leave My Kitten Alone would have been an interesting, cool EP.
Well, the story with Dizzy Miss Lizzie for me is my whole life I loved that song, right? As a kid. I loved it because John rocks so much in it. It's mainly
Yeah,
his singing and screaming. And then people kept talking about how they hate it. It's one of the worst, one of the lower songs in their catalog. And they don't like it. They don't like it. They don't like it. So I started thinking about it, and they would say, well, that damn guitar, the repetitive guitar. And now that's all I hear now when I listen to it. And I start thinking that too.
I love it actually. I just don't think it fits on Help. It's not that I don't like it. I think it's great. I just don't think it fits on Help. So put it on an EP with other
Joe.
songs that don't fit on Help.
Why do I want that? Because I want to hear some stories about Paul, if they're true. If they're true. I don't want a lot of lies and garbage that are not true. But if they're true, I want people to see that Paul was a human being and he was no angel either. I'll be right out and say it. Everybody that's going around here and want to talk about, John this and John that, well, there's stories about Paul as well. I've heard somebody that say that he used to badmouth Linda verbally. He used to be on the Wings tours, and he heard him verbally badmouth Linda. I don't know what to tell you. That's just one guy. I don't know why he's got any reason to lie. I met him at the record store one time, an old guy, and not physically, you know. Whether it's true or not, I don't freaking know. But you know, so I just want to even it. Let's see Paul be more than just Paul can do no wrong. Paul all the time. That's all. He's a human being. Like in the Tune In book, there were stories about him, like him and getting into like I think Stuart Sutcliffe. There's like had a jealous thing going there. And they had fights and stuff. And Paul used to always deliberately make Brian Epstein wait and make the Beatles wait. He'd always be late, and he'd always like do that bit about taking my time to kind make them wait, stuff like that. There's a little bit of difference that from what you always. That's not too cool. That's not nice. But everybody's going to hear this. I got 92 people right now, and they're going to be like, "Oh, Joe, come on, you just want to like trash Paul." It's only the way you interpret it. That's it. I think you're right, Woodland. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it will ever happen. But and here you go. You would believe that. Well, the problem is, look, you're different, Woodland. You're never going to believe it. You're never going to believe it no matter what happens. Even if it was in front of your face on a tape, you'd never believe it. And there was all that stuff with what was the Linda tapes that Paul destroyed or bought or whatever. All this stuff that was it Linda that said and whatever. People don't want to believe it. Like Elvis, Elvis Presley. Look, say what you will about Elvis. By all accounts, the guy was great, a real gentleman, a great to the fans and everything. Sweet guy, bought gifts. But I'm sure he had his moments as well. But nobody wants to know those moments or hear about them,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Elvis did some weird
Yeah.
stuff.
So I can't be any clearer than
Uh,
that,
I
I
don't want
mean,
to spread all this stuff, but Elvis did some weird stuff.
um, well, I have my answer for that, but it's always a long answer. I don't want to make them long. Right now, I grew up with the American releases. I didn't know anything else. Then when I was a teenager, I went and sought out the UK versions, and I liked them much better at the time than the US, because I got to hear them clearer, and I thought this is the way, I got into that whole bit about this is how they intended it, that's how they have to be.
Hmm.
There's no such album as Beatles 6. Beatles 65 is not a real album. Beatles second albums, I got all that snobbiness about that. This is the real album. Then as I got older, I started to like hearing the Americans again. And these days, believe it or not, I think most of the time, I rather, not all the time, 50-50. I put on an American album. I'll pull out Yesterday and Today, or I'll pull out Beatles 6. I'll do that. Something new. I do that a
Yeah,
lot.
I always thought that's they're remastering all this stuff, and that's great and whatever. But they've never since the death of vinyl, since I think '89 maybe was the last time a U.S. Beatle. No, not even then. I don't think. I think maybe 86 or 85 was the last time U.S. Beatle albums got pressed.
Hmm.
How about doing new issues of the U.S. Beatle albums?
Yeah, I
That to
don't.
me would be very interesting.
I think a lot of people would get those. You know. And this thing, Peter, is I've noticed that too. That's a great scene in there because Linda's sitting there at the end, on the end, whatever, when after George left and John's is not in yet, and Linda doesn't say too much, a little bit, but then as soon as Paul leaves, they say, "John on the phone, you want to talk to him?" Paul says, "Yeah," and he gets up and he leaves. Linda, like, without missing a beat, "Oh, I tell you, he leaves for it. And then she's free. I gotta tell you, this is, we watched them last night on a hard day's night, and hell, and that was them. That was them. I'm just a fan." And she starts like sprouting. All of a sudden, she's able to talk because Paul's not there. Watch it. And then Paul comes back, and Linda says something, and he goes, "You stay out of this, Yoko." Like that. One time to Linda. He's joking. He's joking, but
Have a
he
good
means
night,
it.
Royce.
Sorry, Royce. See you later. Missed you. Yeah, anyway, so Paul's doing it in a joking way, doing the John thing, like, you stay out of this,
Mhm.
Yoko. But the thing is, and a lot of people don't like that. Men, Lennon had no problem Yoko giving her input and saying a lot of things in public and stuff, whereas Linda at that time anyway seemed to be a lot more quiet and stifled a little bit, maybe. That's my thoughts.
Yeah.
Songwriters, blah blah. Read out.
See, Woodland's saying 88, but I don't know that the
88 is
US
what?
albums were getting pressed in 88 because they started pressing the UK albums on
I
vinyl
missed it. What
in
was the
America.
question? I'm missing what the point
I
was.
said I was deciding when the last time the US vinyl albums got pressed, and I'm thinking it may be as early as 84 or
Yeah.
85 because when the CDs came out, they started pressing the UK albums in America. They weren't pressing Help, the US version anymore. They were pressing the UK version on vinyl in America. So I don't know when the last time was.
Paul was joking, huh, Woodland? I know again, you just can't ever criticize Paul in any way. And then he says, "Yeah, I criticize him. He shouldn't. He shouldn't have stopped dyeing his hair or something." Come on, stop. You know what I mean? You can believe what you want. You have to believe what you want, obviously. But he obviously like Linda. Linda was more willing to play his game and do more what he wanted to do, whereas somebody like Jane Asher wasn't. Stuff like that, more independence. So that's whatever. That's Beatles unintentionally created a male environment, and it was only once Yoko came in that the other three had to face that challenge. Well, yeah, but I still think here we go again. Boop boop. Time to criticize John. That people don't think I do. That's my new thing. Beep beep. John, it was really wrong of John to have Yoko sitting there everywhere, sitting at his feet everywhere, right there next to him, the whole thing. Yoko should not have done it. John should not have encouraged it, in my opinion. Yeah, I said it. But, I also say, though, but John was happy. So good for him that he was happy. But that really did create a problem in this, amongst all of them.
Woodland, I've
Uncomfortable.
never seen, let's say, Help on that label with the I've never seen a copy of the US Help on the last label. I don't think it exists. I really don't. Um because I'm sure they had enough stock already made that they didn't need to keep pressing it. I mean, there was I'm not saying that when the CDs came out or whatever that you couldn't go to your local record store and buy the US Help. I just don't think it was a new pressing. I think it was, the last one.
Yes and no with this, Martin. In my opinion, I think that it was kind of outrageous. It depends what we're talking about. Like, there's a part in in Get Back where Linda's saying Yoko did all the talking, and I don't think John believed any of that, what she was saying, like kind of thing. So, in other words, that's too much to me. Yeah, but as far as just having your partner's opinions, put in their input, what do you think? You think that's should I do that? You think it's a good idea? You like that song? I don't see anything wrong with that kind of thing. Like, anybody's wife or partner. I would do that with my girlfriend. What do you
Yeah,
think? I'm thinking of doing a video about this, but I don't know. You think it'll go over? Well, I think maybe you shouldn't do that. This is better. That I have kind of thing I have no problem with. But running the Beatles, speaking for the Beatles decisions, that's kind of different to me. So,
yeah,
I don't-
yeah.
I don't, not that we know of. I
No,
mean, who's to say they never came in? But
yeah. Maybe just to say hello, but then they would have left. That's just.
just got done to listening to Dizzy Miss Lizzy, and wow. How do you mean that? I hope you mean wow, like it's amazing. Maybe you never heard it before or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. And who? Oh,
Sorry, did anyone notice a different mood of the get playing the oldies cozy? Well, not only yeah, that of course, but I also just watched again last night. I watched, and everybody's got to see this. The Blue Suede Shoes Carl Perkins special from 1985 was Tim and I were talking about that, and I put it on again. It is one of George's and Ringo's finest hours, and George is amazing. He plays well. He's like a big kid, a little kid. His idol's there. He's glowing. And later on, I think Olivia said he enjoyed it so much, that's that supposedly that's what made him want to get back in on the scene again and start working again, doing music again. That's what she supposedly. So all I'm saying is, yeah. So they love that stuff, oldies,
yeah.
their heroes. Oh, that's a good point. I don't know. Yoko, wasn't she a trained pian? She was.
Yeah, I was waiting for that question. Yes, Yoko is actually a classically trained pianist. So Yoko
Yeah,
Ono is the
pianist.
better musician. Sorry.
Yeah, believe it or not. And
Technically, that is the technically correct answer.
and then I think Linda became pretty decent,
No, Linda became proficient on keyboards. I
proficient,
doubt I
proficient.
doubt she played that much on the actual albums. I'm sure she played some, but
And I also love Dizzy Miss Lizzy at Shea Stadium. I think that's a great moment. You know. Okay. I don't know when they stopped doing those. All I know, I always think the early '80s they stopped doing them, but I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. I don't like I said, I think once the CDs came out, they went to because they had to press they wanted to press all of the British albums. So they stopped to do that, they stopped pressing the American copies and just pressed the British albums because they had never been available before. But I think that stops it. Revolver. Like I don't think there are actual even new pressings of the later albums. They would just be the same ones that they had in stock forever, probably. Because it wasn't
Um,
like one-time pressings like it is now. You do a 1984 pressing, might be pressed in 1986. They're still using the same plates and the same. I mean, it's not like it is now. An album was just in print.
if
Okay,
George
sorry.
Martin was alive, what would I ask him? I'd probably ask him, "Can you do the mixes now for these things instead of your son?" No, I really don't know what I would ask him. I was joking a joke and say something about, do you really have he had a relationship? Because a lot of that's another problem. Again, you know, Mark Lewison's book Tune In, which is a fantastic book, tells a whole different stories of that George Martin basically was lying about a lot of stuff. He doesn't come out and say that blatantly because this idea about the Beatles came in and he signed them willingly because he figured I like their personalities. They didn't have so many good songs, nothing, but they made me well, I liked them, so other people liked them. Their personality. That's a beautiful story, but apparently he was forced to sign them according to the paperwork and interviews with Kim Bennett. Um, eh, the Beatles had to he had to sign them, and he didn't want it. They made him do it supposedly because he was having an affair with the Capitol, a woman at Capitol secretary, something that became his wife, if I understand correct.
Oh,
So it's not as nice of a story that way. I
yeah.
saw, I signed them because I was pushed to sign them. I didn't really want to sign them. I don't know, and he didn't seems like he didn't really understand because then who it was that Mark Lewison said, and I'm getting some of this backwards. He presented George Martin when they were doing in 1992. I'm gonna try to remember the name of it. It was 20 years ago, 25 years ago, the Sergeant Pepper documentary, Making a Sergeant Pepper. He said he had the paperwork there, and he showed George Martin. He said, "Can you explain these signatures?" He says, he signed it, whatever. He had signed it, whatever it was. And he said, "Why would I sign a group that I'd never heard before? It's ridiculous." Or something like that. He goes, "I don't know. You tell me. That's what I want to find out." So he didn't really remember and everything and all this stuff. And he says, "I'd never heard Ringo before. That's why I put Andy White on the drums." But supposedly he had heard Ringo already. He wasn't that impressed with Ringo either. So he had heard Ringo by the dates of recordings, Love Me Do and everything. But yet still people to this day, this hasn't been adopted as part of the lore yet. There's still
Yeah.
it hasn't replaced the old one yet.
Yeah. But plus I've always heard that Parlophone, was a minor label and wasn't
Yes,
doing very well. And the
but
executives at EMI were on them to make some money. Sign beat groups might be the next big thing. Start looking at beat groups. Sign some people, bring some money in here because they were mainly doing classical and comedy records, and they weren't
yeah,
selling. And so George Martin was actively looking for someone to sign as well. Regardless of anything else, he was actively looking for someone to sign to save his job, basically.
yeah. Well, that's true. Uh, by the way, I gotta say, me, I always defend Yoko. I'm always defending her. But I have to be honest and say I think this was kind of a half strategic move. I think there's obviously footage that could have been used during the duration of those sessions that could make Yoko in a worse light. But the ones that it chosen make her look very unintrusive,
Yeah.
and that's what I think. I think that was a good job too, because some people said, "Oh, she's not so bad" and all that, but he could have used ones where she was much more in the way. I think, you know. Uh, well, you have one, Tim. I think I know what yours is.
Well, early Beatles is probably my least favorite because they
Uh,
just leave so much off of it.
yeah,
I much rather introducing the Beatles as a U.S. album. I'd much rather
yeah,
listen to that. Yesterday and Today, maybe.
yeah. I didn't think I wasn't thinking. I was thinking earlier. Yeah, I always go with the Beatles' second album. I always say it's my favorite album. But Meet the Beatles is great. The Beatles' second album to me is great, and I think Beatles '65 is great. Those are, I think,
Yeah.
the, my favorites of all of them. And Yesterday and Today too now, which I appreciate, like you said.
Yesterday and Today is the first Beatle album I bought with my own money at a store.
And A Hard Day's Night, the soundtrack. I love it. I love the way the songs sound on that album. Not a lot of bongos in Hard Day's Night song. Uh, I love the way they sound, and I love the cover, and I love the instrumentals like Ringo's theme, This Boy, and all that. I really like that album as a soundtrack album. I like Help too, the Help soundtrack album.
I
Uh,
like Help better than A Hard Day's Night as far as the incidental music goes.
yeah, John plays Dizzy Miss Lizzy in Toronto. I think it's kind. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's kind of like a little too on the weak side, but because he's not, was nervous. I think as he went on with the show, I always thought he got better. I think he started doing Your Blues better, Cold Turkey better, um, Give Peace a Chance better. But at the beginning with Blue Suede Shoes and Dizzy Miss Lizzy, I don't know if there's anything. Money, I think those are a little weak, personally, until he got more comfortable. I always say personally because, it's just my opinion,
Yeah.
She was in the fifth beat. What is this? Are we talking about the song is about her? Are we talking about the song is
Um,
about? Uh,
uh,
I missed that. Who we saying the song is about? I missed it. It's an old thing up above.
I don't know. So somebody was asking about "She Loves You" on Swan. Yes.
Oh yeah, that was the first release that
Dave
he did.
Dexter. That was the fourth single in a row that Dave Dexter turned down for Capitol, so it wound up on Swan.
Hmm.
The last one he turned down. he got a phone call after that.
George Martin's hearing was getting weak. I know
Yeah,
that.
no, yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but when was the Love album? He did the Love. He did the strings on While My Guitar Gently Weeps for the
Yeah,
that was his last major thing, wasn't it? For the
yeah,
Love album.
yeah.
I believe that.
Well, I think that's one of the main reasons Giles got brought in is
Hmm.
George couldn't trust his hearing anymore, so he brought his son in, sort of hear for him a little bit, help him out.
Well, that's true. They didn't want an outsider there. Period. I agree with you. I think that's right.
Yeah,
But the thing is, I think Yoko did like again. I gotta say this. I'm the biggest Yoko defender. You all know that. But I do think being objective about it, thinking she was unconventional. She was very different, a little unusual in ways. So I think that added a little bit to it. Yeah, that's true. There's some good shots that Yoko took. There's shots of them doing "Come Together," doing the vocals on John and Paul and "Come Together." There's some good shots in there. Yeah, but Michael Lindsay, I agree. Even "Let It Be" was edited to tell a down story about the
yeah.
breakup. And Michael Lindsay Hogg, I heard him say that that wasn't the case, and I find that very hard to believe. I hate to call the man a liar. I'm not saying that, but it's hard for me to believe that. It looks like he took like the most down stuff for the most part until you get to the rooftop. Then it's a triumph again, and but for the most part, it's kind of grim. And they didn't have to use that. There's tons, as we know. There's how many hours? Is it 50 something, 6 hours,
Yeah.
60 hours?
Well, the problem is Lindsay Hogg used mostly the Twickenham footage, and
Yes,
that's the
yes,
stuff where they're down,
that's true.
and you know, Peter Jackson used a lot of Twickenham, but he used just as much when they went to Apple, and that was when things got good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's one of George Harrison's classic quotes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is a classic George quote.
Yep. Yep.
Another great line that supposedly George Harrison said, I was talking about a little earlier, is this is I've heard this so many times, and I think Mark Lewison said it. When Brian Epstein used to like want them to meet somewhere for a meeting, and Paul was always late, and always seemed deliberately to be stalling. And Paul says, "Yeah, I got to take a bath or something," really, and he got all cleaned up at the last minute. And Brian Epstein goes, "This is disgraceful. Paul's going to be very late." And George says, "Late but very clean," or something like that. I mean, that's a line I've heard many times. I think that's corroborated in Lewison's book. But that's anybody can think of that. That's a natural response to that. But
It's not according to the sales figures. It's not.
mm, yeah, some great one. Favorite. That's another thing. Favorite lines by everybody. Two of my favorite things were Paul. First, my biggest favorite Paul thing of all time is when he said, "It's great. It's soul. It's the Buddy Beatles White Album. Shut up." That's my favorite Paul quote of all time. And then, you know, the other one is, of course, when I don't know if it's exact quote, but when he told off the reporter about the LSD thing and said, it's you're the one that's got the responsibility,
Yep.
to not spread this. Um,
Yeah.
and then what's the other one? I just had it. We were just trying to write songs about prostitutes and lesbians. That's all. When they asked him, Time magazine says there's an article that says Norwegian Wood was a Day Trip was about a prostitute. Norwegian Wood was about a lesbian. What was your intentions in this song when you wrote it? And what do you think of the Time magazine article?" And that's what Paul answered. He just shrugged, just trying to do that, you know. That was a great Paul quote. Notice the ones I'm picking are the ones where he's a little bit more, he's a little more, he's giving a little more. He's not just
Yeah.
giving you the PR answer all the time, you know. Uh, okay. Yeah, she really. I love that stuff with Maureen and the way she's really getting it. She's a big Beatle fan, you know. She just was a fan before that, before being with Ringo. She's, big Beatle fan, and she's really getting into it. I love that stuff. That's great stuff with her bouncing and bopping around. I love all of them listening to that stuff. We talk about this from time to time. Uh, I would at this point I wouldn't mind seeing it in color just as a curiosity how it plays, but I think it's perfect in black and white.
Yeah. I don't want to see it in color.
You know.
Not that film especially. It's filmed like a documentary, and a documentary in 1964 would have been filmed in black and white. They could have made it in color. They chose not to leave it in black and white.
But definitely Hackney Diamonds because it's a whole album instead of one single.
Well, yeah. I don't want to listen to the same song the rest of my
If
life.
you ask me, do I bring the Blue album or Hackney Diamonds? I'll bring the Blue album, the new Blue album, I guess. I'm stuck with I Am the Walrus till the end.
I bring an iPod, but that's just me.
Maureen Cleve. Oh, Maureen Starkey. Wasn't Maureen Starkey. Okay,
Yeah.
I got you. It wasn't Maureen Starkey. Well, I thought she was one of the fans at the Cavern and stuff originally. She's a hairdresser, but I thought she
Yeah,
was,
she might have been.
you know. Funny how these other people snag the Beatle, but nobody says anything. It's only Yoko, you know.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, I don't want to get to that. I don't want to fight about that. But right now, this is going too. This is a good night. I hope this one gets watched. This is like almost 3 hours by the time I get. It's going to be over 3 hours by the time I'm done. Uh, oh, interesting. I like the 1988 version. I think it's 88. That's the one I listened to. The CDs of the 88 version of. I don't usually like those for the earlier albums, but I do like the White Album on that.
I like the what was it, the 20th anniversary reissue, whatever, the one that came in like the little slip case, and it was a top loader,
Uh,
and it's like the Run the Blue album. They said they didn't do anything to it, but they did. It's tweaked, it's mastered. They didn't just use the same exact everything and just repress it. They worked on it a little bit.
yeah. I like this. I like this comment here. I think it's true. I think she did a good job, and she was really stuck with quite a responsibility there. Because I don't know. She wasn't. I don't think she was always a very motherly type originally and stuff. And then I
Yeah.
think she also got better through the experience. And they had a very close relationship. And Sean is
Yeah.
very
But,
defensive of her. Like
yeah.
she's got her back a lot.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but I mean, somebody had to run the business, and you could say the same thing about John with Julian. Really, somebody had to run the business, and blah blah blah. But in the end, I mean, when I mean, I think this is pretty common knowledge that when after Lennon got shot and she's at the hospital and she's told he's dead, she told the doctors, please keep this under your hat for a little while so that I can tell my son that he's lost his father and he doesn't see it on
Yeah,
television.
yeah,
I'm sorry, but that's a good mom. That's not a mom that
yes,
doesn't care about a
absolutely.
kid, or you know what I mean. That's a good mom.
But of course, we
Um,
got that idiot Fred who wrote the book will try to make you think other things were going on.
yeah,
Penny Lane, I didn't get a chance to say you're in my ears and in my eyes, by the way, if you're still watching. Yeah, that's really a nice thing too. And she was devastated. A lot of people think, oh, Oh,
Oh no,
he's
no, she
great. He's
was.
she was devastated. You could see in the photos with David Geffen holding on to her and
Yeah,
stuff. She's absolutely devastated. I heard there were
yeah,
screams, like she screamed, and tell me it's not true and all this kind of stuff. You mean he's sleeping? I think was one of the questions. She was a
yeah,
little incoherent.
yeah. There's no way she wasn't just
You know, it's
devastated.
absolutely. I mean, can you imagine that? I mean, anybody, happening to her in front of, right, well, back of you, whatever, while you're there. And anyway, but if you read again, I don't want to give too much credit to that guy Fred's book, but he makes it sound like then he gets back to Dakota and he's shell shocked and everybody else is running around business as usual. He's the only one that's devastated. He can't believe this. Somebody says, "Look, if you want to last here any length of time, you better get yourself together, get your act together, and stop." And he's like, "Oh, I couldn't believe it." It's like he's the only one that was affected by it. What a lot of nonsense.
No, yeah, that's you have to take care of things. I mean, I'm sorry, but you have to
And you
live
still have
your
to do
life,
that as
and
well, but
you know,
I suppose, but.
you don't want to, but you have to. And it's good to be busy. That's the other thing that people. What are you gonna do? Just sit and cry for 10 days? I mean, it's better to be busy. It's better to
Yeah, that's another
be
thing. Yeah,
working and
that's
not
what
thinking about it.
Paul tried to do. Now, this is like I said, it's your choice, but I feel bad when for people who say that.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, have you listened to the other ones, or you just say no, no, no? What? Because the 73 albums, or they're nostalgic for all of us, are not the songs are not all that great sound quality, and even Lennon didn't like it. Now, I don't want to say um. I don't want to be like a hypocrite in the sense that I always say like, well, just Paul. People say Paul liked Pet Sounds. And I say, well, just because Paul likes it doesn't mean I got to, like it. So I'm not saying because John didn't like the red and blue that you should say, oh, well, I don't like it either. Whatever. But I don't know, I think you're resisting maybe, Martin. I don't know you, and we haven't talked much.
yeah.
But I think you may be resisting it, the new album
Yeah.
version.
And what are they listening to, too? I mean, are you listening to original 1973 copies of those albums? Or are you listening to like the 2014 CDs? Because there's a huge difference there. What are you listening
Yeah.
to? I don't know.
Yeah, that's well said, Brinley. I think I did hear that. I mean, you said it's
It-
exactly the version. I think I
It's
did hear
not.
that.
It's not. They changed it a little bit. I actually don't. It's not one of my favorite Holly singles. There's a group called the Crying Shames that did it too, and I think the Crying Shames version might be better than the Hollies.
Well, for anybody that lives through that, like me and Tim,
Yeah.
well, I don't remember. Yeah, you said Howard Cosell. That's how you.
Yeah, I didn't learn it from Howard Cosell, but that's who I learned. I had a friend Ray who was watching Monday Night Football, and he called, and my parents were pissed because the phone rang at like 11:30 at night or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. But,
I
the
got a
phone
call.
doesn't ring at 11:30 at night, and then I just walked into my parents' bedroom and said, somebody shot John Lennon. He's dead. And I walked out of the room, and my mother comes running out, and she's like, "I'm so sorry, I yelled at you." She knew that I would be absolutely devastated by this.
Well,
And,
I did a horrible thing that I've apologized a million times for, and that's it was my mother's 40th birthday that day. I
oh
would
wow,
say, and you know, um, well, in my case, I got a call. I got a call also from my friend who heard the news, but
hmm
he heard it like it was a quarter to 11 or 10 to 11, and
yeah,
it was just starting to speculate what was going on. So anyway, and my mom, I don't know. At one point, I told her, and she said, "Oh, come on, life goes on. Like stop, something like that." And I said, "This is from now on. This is the day when I'm going to remember this day." And I
yep,
was like, I was 18. I was upset, So I've apologized a gazillion times about that. But that's how I was. Don't belittle this moment.
I wound up leaving college because of it.
Uh,
It changed my life just because nobody there got why it upset me so much.
yeah.
My so-called friends, didn't get it, so I left.
And a lot of times this guy that you're talking about is I've seen him many times. Even I think last Beatle Fest, he walks around the fest. He's never a guest or anything, but he mills around in the crowds trying to be recognized, I guess. And I recognize a few times I wanted to say something, but I don't. And you got to remember too, like I heard it at 18, and I was a rabid John Lennon fan. I was never a bigger John Lennon fanatic than I was at that point. I mean, I was
Yes,
big when
and
16, 17, and 18.
yeah, and somebody else said that he just said he was shot, and that's true. At first, he did not say he was dead yet because
Uh,
again, they have to have these things verified.
right. Okay. But
So but yeah, it took him a while to even get it verified that he was shot. Eventually, Cosell told everybody he was dead, but at first, it was just he was shot.
yeah, that was also just like I said. Every breath you take, a little while. One of my and then
Yeah.
the another major record moment was that you know, Plastic Ono Band. And I've told the story. I won't do it again here, but I was 15 and it was dark late at night and I had headphones on and I listened to it and the light was out, the moon and everything,
Mhm.
trees. It was like perfect feeling. And I somehow I could see back then I could see good better and I was able to read with the night moon. I was still able to read the lyric sheet. I was reading along with every song and it touched me amazingly. And another big event was when I listened the first time I listened. There's a few of them. Infidels by Bob Dylan. That was a huge. That was really. I really loved that when I first heard it. And Joan Jett's third album with the yellow cover. I couldn't wait to get that. I love rock and roll. Couldn't wait to get that album. I ran to the store. I got it. Didn't know what it was going to look like till you saw the cover on the wall. Brought it home. Put the headphones on. I guess I listened to the headphones a lot. Then laid back in it, and I loved it. And there's certain like magic moments like that with certain albums. Yeah. But you see, this is yeah. Well, yeah, we all enjoyed them. We all enjoyed them. But now the sound is a little
Yeah.
better on some of those early tracks.
It is. I can't deny it. They sound great overall. I think he did a great job.
Yeah, we went through this a million times. So there is, of
Yeah,
course,
yeah,
stuff we could say I don't like this, I don't like that.
yeah.
But
But
overall, I'm like, I love what he did, and I
overall,
enjoyed them as well. Yeah, one of my sisters said when John, well, so you didn't know him. Oh, there's all kinds of people. Now I remember the thing with me is that I was 18. I had graduated from high school that summer, and I went right to work. And I wound up getting in a printing shop. And I remember having to go to work the next day, and it was just surreal because I mean I didn't get any sleep. I was up all night. Listening
me
laid in
too.
my bed, yeah, I couldn't. Who could sleep? I know who could sleep, George Harrison, but that's another story. He went back to bed. But anyway, eh, and then I had to take the bus. I didn't have a car then, so I had to take the bus, and I'm walking. And I always tell the story. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning or something because I really had to get started early, and it's still kind of dark in the morning. And I'm like, I can't believe this is real. And then I pass a store, you know, stationery candy store, and they have the bundle of newspaper arrived already, and it says John Lennon slain here, and I'm like, what? Not real. It's crazy. Then I get on the bus, and you could sense it on the bus. Everybody was like quiet and devastated. I still remember that. Then I got to work after the bus ride, and they were all talking about it, like 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, whatever it was. And I remember my boss said, "Well, at least the guy got his autograph." Like that. I remember saying stupid like that. And I remember talking to an old man. You got to remember too. This like sounds like me now. This old man. I think he was in his 60s. He was like 67. Say old man. And he was a guy that was training me on the printing presses at that time. I was learning how to be an apprentice on these big printing presses. And I'm working with the guy. We had to like put these big plates on. And we're like screwing the plates on. And I kept talking. He goes, listen, I could still remember, look, when you're dead, you're dead. There's nothing left. He goes, that's it. I remember saying that to me. That would be like me if somebody said, I don't know, somebody from today past, maybe I wouldn't understand, Justin Bieber or somebody, I don't know. I'd say, look, but that's it. You know, just some memories, more memories of that. A lot of people were indifferent about it. Some people,
Yeah, no, there was a lot of people that were indifferent about it. And I was not. I wasn't having it. I stayed up all night listening to this guy on WAL, Gary Elias, and
yeah.
he did the midnight to 6 shift, and he played nothing but Lennon and the Beatles. And at 6, when his shift was over, he refused to get off. It was supposed to be the station manager's job, but he let him go. And about 8 o'clock in the morning, he said, "Look, you got to play something else, just one song." So Gary Elias said, "Okay, I'll play one." And he played Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding by Elton John. And
Hmm.
then he went back to Lennon. And I was like, this guy's amazing.
I saw Fred. I think this year too. Spotted him. Well, it changed my life. Changed my. I can't even. You can't even. How can we even fathom what things would have been like if he was still all
Yeah,
this time was making albums and records the whole time? And I always say, maybe him being on Saturday Night Live, joining in with some more skits. Maybe I always say Howard Stern being interviewed with Howard Stern because John had a sense of humor and he could if he asked him, so come on, John, did you have any girls or he had extra. I mean, I could see him talking about it and whatever, and none of that. And he also was. I miss his interviews and his intellect and his commentary on whatever's going on, at the time. Or
yeah,
when he think, love Paul, love George. Well, George was also good with, telling a little more deeper stuff. I love Paul, but his interviews are basically talking about how he wrote yesterday and about, you know, same stories, and it's just, it's a
I've,
shame.
I've, I've always, I mean, Paul's my favorite Beatle, but I've always said Paul could spend, you could do an hour interview with Paul, and at the end you realize he hasn't said anything. He's very good at that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I mean that was just God, it's insane. And that stuff didn't happen all as often.
No,
It
no,
was it
that
was
that
really
was
different. You didn't get that as often. You still don't. Well, you thank God you don't get
yeah,
celebrities getting
well,
killed like
rappers,
that.
but nobody else.
Yeah. You had Rebecca Schaefer and the actress and some other, but it was very unusual.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, we don't know this for sure. I just always say that I think that would have been the best, probably the most likely chance they might have just for that. But I don't know that. Who knows?
yeah. Who knows? The other three were all in London at the time, so
I just try to be careful. I generally prefer listening to music without the headphones, and I'm worried about my hearing. I don't want to like hurt my hearing or anything. I wear these, but I'm getting Tim through these. But I do this mostly because I have in an apartment here, and by using this, it's mainly for this because by working through this, you don't hear things going on. You don't hear all the noises that are going on around here. It's mostly for your benefit that I wear. Yeah, I don't mind talking about this stuff. A lot of times, like when we were on Talk More Talk or something, and I say, "Well, what should we do?" Well, let's. I don't want to talk about it either. Let's not talk. Nobody wants to do a show like talking about how your memories, how you feel. It's like no, no. And I say, "Well, let's celebrate the life of John." They say, "No, no. The time to celebrate him is on his birthday." Yoko wants to do it on his birthday, and I said, "Well, my argument with that always is you celebrate his birthday anyway. I mean, anybody's right? Paul's birthday, George, Ringo, and John. He's going to get celebration anyway for his birthday, but this is a special day where I think it should be talked about as well. The good and the bad, maybe. I don't know. The other kind of things where these those lines, things like that sit with you. Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans.
oh yeah. There's a lot of Yoko wrote some prophetic things too. I mean, she wrote that song, Mrs. Lennon. in what,
Yes.
71 or 72, and it has
Oh,
the line in it, half the world is always dying, which is
yeah,
like,
yeah.
whoa.
Great. I love that song.
And even It Happened, which wasn't about that they
Right.
put on the B-side of Walking on Thin Ice. In the
It happened.
context of what happened, it's like, holy
Yeah,
crap.
that's really and that was a lot earlier. I think that was 73-ish, but still,
Yeah,
I think,
yeah,
but
but
it's still
no, but it
amazing.
but in the context of John getting
Yeah, oh yeah,
shot, that's more what it sounds like.
yeah. I have to get ready to leave. I'm looking at the
Yeah,
time, and I gotta leave.
I knew you had to leave soon.
I mean, this is like one of the best conversations that I ever had, as far as I'm concerned, on here. This is really
Good,
a good one. You know.
good.
Yeah. I hope there is never another death like that. We almost had another one with George, with the
Yeah,
maniac that. I mean, he still died of cancer, George,
yeah.
but
As far as I'm concerned, that guy did kill George.
yeah.
It's not the same thing, but it's like the woman that shot Andy Warhol. Yeah, he lived a while longer, but that gunshot's still what killed Andy Warhol.
Yeah, lots. I can imagine a lot of things, and it's sad. That's what we can do is imagine stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Well, it's true that George. I heard that's the reason he did the anthology. I think that's common knowledge that he really did he needed the money. He he felt he needed money then, but I think he would have done it no matter what, because they talked about that for years. They were talking about doing that project when John was alive.
Yeah.
Their story with footage chosen by them. The minute Yoko witnessed that night, any haters should have disappeared. Well, what I remember initially they did leave. She was like the poor. For a while she was like the poor, unfortunate, the widow that everybody felt sorry for a while, but eventually it came right. It came back again. You
Yeah.
know. Yep. I think it's a great album now. I didn't think it was a great album then. I was disappointed when it came out. I didn't think it was so that
I
I
thought it
expected
was a
better.
really good album. I thought John could have rocked a little more, but I thought
Mm.
it was a really good. I liked it way better than the next one, and I still do.
Oh, I like it better than Milk and Honey.
Oh yeah, Milk and Honey is not a great album at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I gotta
Yeah,
go. So thank you, Tim.
that's
On
right.
this note, thank you very much, everybody. Ah, anyway, this was great. Everybody, I appreciate all your comments. I appreciate Kit being on here before. I appreciate Tim being on as well for most of it too, because I think I started alone, if I remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, and this is great. Let's do it again. And take care, Tim. Take
Bye,
care,
Joe. Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Talk soon.